We are lost without her. The Coast Guard suspended its search for survivors in rough, frigid waters on Saturday. And former State Senator Dean Tran has had his prison sentence extended and will have to spend a bit longer behind bars. The Telegram and Gazette reports that Tran, a Fitchburg Republican who was already serving an 18-month prison sentence for falsely collecting pandemic unemployment benefits and filing false tax returns, was sentenced last Friday to a year in prison in a separate case. 11 months of that sentence will be served concurrently with his current sentence, while the final month will be tacked on to the end of it, extending his prison term to September. In sports, it's all about beanpot hockey tonight. BC Harvard is the 5 o'clock game. Northeastern BU is the 8 o'clock game. Both games are at the TD Garden, and Newsflash Nancy says tickets are in very high demand and they are going quickly. In the forecast, partly cloudy, low 30s today, clear in single digits overnight, sunny and 33 tomorrow, mid-30s on Wednesday, 24 in Boston right now, 24 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Lilly Endowment, a private foundation supporting NPR's coverage of religion and spirituality, and Jarl and Pamela Mohn, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts.
He's Jim Brady. I am Margery Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio 89.7 GBH, YouTube.com/GBH News. And we have a podcast. I want to remind people. Yeah. I saw somebody yesterday didn't know we have a podcast. We have a podcast called Boston Public Radio. We're going to be at the library tomorrow, Wednesday and Friday. MIT President Sally Kornbluth is going to be with us on Thursday, February 10th from 12 to 1. She was one of the...
No. February 10th from 12 to 1 is the mayor.
Oh.
Sally Kornbluth will be here Thursday.
Thursday. Didn't I say that?
No, we're off to a good start, but it's not February 10th.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Is this Thursday?
Yep.
Okay, the wrong date is in here. Having a little confusion here. And the mayor is going to be with us at the Boston Public Library studio as well. That's right. It's correct.
February 10th.
This is correct. I goofed up.
Oh, my gosh.
Kornbluth on Thursday. And then February 10th from 12 to 1, it's Ask the Mayor. Okay, sorry about that. Hello,
Jim. Can I ask you a quick question?
What?
I asked Jamie to get my car started for 1 o'clock. Was that inappropriate, do you think? Okay, as of today, we are 11 to 1.
Yep.
The Curiosity Desk at 1 o'clock, and the Great Culture Show with Jared Bowen is at 2. Mm-hmm. You know, we talk a lot on the show about where we should be putting our attention on illegal immigration actions. 2 legal observers, as you know, are dead at the hands of ICE agents in Minnesota. At least a dozen people in Minneapolis taken out of state despite court orders. It's happening across the country, including, by the way, here in Massachusetts. Or do we focus on the massive Epstein files released by the Department of Justice? Nude photos and names of some of the victims made their way to the public unredacted, but wow, none of the names of any perpetrators other than Prince Andrew were disclosed. What a shock that is. In any case, both these situations make very clear the feds are acting in bad faith. All pretense of transparency and truth are gone. How do you react to that at 877-301-8970? Today we're going to focus on Epstein. The Epstein files a distraction. Are they a distraction from Trump's immigration terror campaign? Or is the immigration terror campaign, making its rounds through different cities, the distraction? How do you respond when the federal government almost never tells the truth about anything, and powerful men and women get away with lying, in some cases for decades, about their unconscionable behavior? The number is 877-301-8970 to call or text. I want to make this clear. Photos of women, some of whom appear to be overage, naked, not redacted.
Underage.
Underage, I'm sorry. The names of survivors, in many cases, not redacted. However, every single perpetrator, as far as I know, with the exception of Prince Andrew, and we looked up this morning, here's what the law says that was passed by Congress and signed by Trump, is that no information could be withheld or redacted because of, quote, embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity, which means every one of these alleged abusers' names should be public by law.
I think they didn't give a damn about exposing these women. In one case, this woman's driver's license was exposed. You know, Blanche says that what should happen here is that the New York Times actually had to call the Justice Department to alert them to the naked pictures.
It's unbelievable.
And so you say to yourself, how is it you can't redact pictures, which are much bigger than names, but you can redact the names of the men
because they don't care.
They're doing it on purpose. I would argue they're doing it on purpose. That would be my guess. One lawyer said they gave 350 names of the victims to the DOJ on December 4th and warned them that they needed to do kind of like a basic keyboard search. You know, if you go to the top of a document and you search for Jim Browdy keeps coming up and up and up and up. So they would give them the name of, say, Jane Smith, which you would think, if they did a basic keyword search, would come up and up and up and up.
Well, let's pick another name, for example. How many times did the name of Donald Trump show up?
38,000 times.
Now,
but in fairness, it was
some news articles.
Yeah, some news articles. Some were about Mar-a-Lago.
Some serious allegations, and we're to believe that all of them are without merit. Is that right?
Well, there are some uncorroborated allegations of sexual misconduct involving Donald Trump, but they are uncorroborated. He's not been accused of doing anything wrong.
How about that woman who was allegedly delivered by
Epstein to Mar-a-Lago, and this woman, according to the one of the Epstein files, recalled Epstein saying she's a pretty good one, to Donald Trump.
Our number is 877-301-8970. That is our number to call or text, 877-301-8970.
But the guy who's really in big trouble today, I would say, is the Commerce Department Secretary Howard Lutnick, who claimed that way back in 2005, he gave her an interview to a reporter about this. He discovered after he visited, I guess he lived next door to Epstein in New York. Yeah, and he went next door to the house there, and he saw his massage table, and Epstein basically said, he gets the best kind of massage on that table every day. Lutnick claimed he was disgusted, absolutely disgusted, had nothing to do with this guy after that. Well, now we have all these emails from Lutnick and his wife years later about planning visits to his island. What do they call it? Little St. James or something like that. With their children. They were going to go visit him. 2012.
Well, they were still disgusted, but they decided we'll visit.
Yeah, well, he said he had nothing to do with them after 2005, and obviously he did.
So the question today is, how do you live in an environment where you know that 9 times out of 10, whatever the federal government says is either not the whole story or is a lie? And can anybody defend? I want to go back to this just for a second. I was unaware till this morning, I'm embarrassed to say. The law explicitly says they cannot redact names due to embarrassment or reputational harm, which addresses the whole issue of the names of men. Again, to my knowledge, I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. Other than Prince Andrew, who is even worse than we thought he was, no other alleged perp is identified. And, they say all these women in these nude photos were by mistake. Well, why were there no men by mistake? I'm serious.
The only one was Prince Andrew. I mean, it's a sad state of affairs. It's a really frustrating state of affairs. We all know now that we've been lied to consistently over and over and over again by Homeland Security. We're being lied to again by Todd Blanche, who's the number 2 guy, former lawyer to Donald Trump, he was on television yesterday, saying that review is over, everything is all set.
It was a Friday, and he says we have millions more. We're not giving you those. I don't know why that is either. Let's take some calls. Chuck and Brighton, you're first on BPR. Welcome to the show, Chuck. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
So I have 2 points. I'm sorry. Let me turn down my speakers.
Please.
I'm echoing.
Thanks.
My 2 points here that I'd like to make is the first being is that we're just inundated with horrifying story after horrifying story.
I know.
It's so hard to keep track of. And every one of these stories, it feels like should be front page headline news. And, not more than this Epstein file dump, like all these allegations against Trump that show up, and many others, but against Trump that show up. And, the DOJ not doing their job, the job that Trump wants them to do, because then these files, they take off the internet, but it's just wild. And my second point being that I feel uncomfortable talking about some of these revelations in this latest Epstein dump, not because of how horrible they are, but because it really feels like, oh my God, the crazy tinfoil hat people are right. And
wait, they're right in what respect, Chuck? How are they right?
Well, I mean, let me just say, not like, oh my God, QAnon was right, but I'm saying that it seems so preposterous that Jeffrey Epstein would have direct connections to the creator of 4chan, which is where QAnon started. I'm not saying that QAnon was right, but I'm saying, like, oh my God, the conspiracy web potentially gets so much bigger on these false flags. And it's just,
well, by the way, not only were they right, but all the Trump people were right when they weren't in office and were for full disclosure. And now that they are in office, as Trump says repeatedly, it's a Democratic hoax. You know why it's all the Democrats? Because he was a Democrat when he knew Epstein. Chuck, thank you for the call. We got to go. 877-301-8970 is our number.
You know, what you do know is a lot of the people that were involved, they may not have done anything to break any law, but you got, Musk involved, you got Lutnick involved. It mentions of Bill Gates, mentions of the guy that owns Sergey Brin, that owns founder of Google. Was he the founder of Google? Yeah, he's founder of Google.
Also Richard Branson,
Virgin the guy
Airlines.
from the New York Giants.
The guy that owns the Jets.
It was kind of like
Giants. I'm sorry, Steve Tisch.
It was kind of like they're all in this soupy, sleazy world, kind of floating around.
The level. Every members of Congress, including a lot of Republicans.
Thomas Massey
said, "Well, Massey's an outlier, and we shouldn't even."
Well, he's after them.
He and Rocca were the two people who led this charge, along, by the way, with people like Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and a few other Republicans. But the vote on this was either 427-1 or 437-1. And don't you think there'd be some outrage about the failure to redact information they're supposed to redact and the redaction of those things they were not supposed to redact?
Well, it's against. They're already ignoring the law by being so late in doing this, even though they're supposedly working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Oh, we forgot Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton's in there a lot, too, so we don't know what he was doing, but some of us might be suspicious.
Let's go to Shane on the Cape. Shane, hey.
Hey, good morning. First
Welcome.
time, long time.
We really appreciate it.
I just wanted to say, sure, no problem. And I also donate, of course.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
For a long time. I just wanted to say that I'm not trying to make light of the situation, but I honestly just try to focus in on our small pot of a family. And every time we go to bed at night, we just thank our lucky stars that we have what we have. And I really feel like that mom on the Titanic, the little redhead with her little kids, and she's saying goodnight to them, because I feel like our administration is that dude that created all the drama on the Titanic and then got himself into a life raft, before women and children, honestly.
Oh, my gosh.
That was a hell of a first call, Shane, let me tell you. Do another one soon. Thank you, Shane.
That was great. Thank you very much.
Could you repeat what you told me this morning,
What did I tell you?
about some of the tips about sex abuse by Trump and Epstein, and that some of the tipsters' names are identified, meaning I assume responsible news outlets could actually reach out to them?
That's a weird thing. Yes, exactly right. That there were people in this FBI investigation who tipped off the FBI, and they know their names. So they could presumably not go after, but interview those tipsters again and find out exactly who they were and what they knew. I mean, it's just, like I said, just Shane just said, the call from the Cape. It's like lies and cover-ups.
We're getting a bunch of texts, which I'm not going to read because I always criticize Margery for reading them, about how this is a hoax, this is all BS. I repeat, every single person in the Trump administration that fought the release of all these files until they couldn't fight anymore were nonstop talking about how the Democrats were refusing to release the files when they were out of power, meaning when the Trump people were out of power. So they're in a pretty tough space to be arguing it's a hoax. But Trump, on CNN, they played repeated clips from Democratic hoax. It's all the Democrats. It's all the sort of... How many times Trump mentioned again? 58,000?
38,000.
Excuse me.
Yeah, but again, in fairness, it's a lot of it is news clippings and stuff like that. What was apparent is that after Epstein and Trump had their falling out, Epstein was keeping close tabs on Trump because he figured Trump was a rising political star, and Epstein could get favors from him in exchange for whatever Trump did not want Epstein to reveal about him. And by the way, with the people that talk about a hoax, I mean, there was a prosecution of this guy back under the Alexander...
I put that in quotes. a prosecution.
Well,
Acosta you're talking about?
Yes, Acosta.
Who became Trump's Secretary of Labor later.
Yeah, this guy was the Secretary of Labor, right, in the first Trump administration. And he arranged a sweetheart deal because they were investigating his having sex with more than a dozen girls under the age of, the legal age. And they arranged a sweetheart deal where he basically went to work during the day and went to jail at night.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know, but he wound up being the labor secretary. That's what I'm saying. It's like this big soup of rich, powerful men floating around.
Our topic on Friday.
I don't think Letnick was disgusted by him.
Apparently not.
I don't think he was disgusted by him.
Or maybe he was very
at all.
briefly. Our topic on Friday was what do parents tell kids? What do you tell the kids? I think we agree that when it comes to what's going on in Minneapolis, it's been an endless stream of lies. By the way, people like Kristi Noem continue to lie. Even after caught, they continue.
But that little boy's home.
I know. Well, temporarily. Even though the judge sent them back to Minneapolis, said both the father
Liam.
And the kid could still
That's
be
the kid in the bunny
deported.
hat.
But so we know that they've lied repeatedly about the murder, the deaths. In one case, clearly a murder. In the other case, some people think murder. Obviously, in the case of Renee Good is the latter. They lie about that. Obviously, they've not been transparent, and they're lying about these Epstein files. What do you tell your kid about the government of the United States of America?
What do you say? You don't have to tell him anything for a while.
What do you? Well,
the high school kids, the older kids,
you can't trust anything.
That this is a corrupt.
Don't trust and then verify?
Administration, yeah. It's one of my favorite lies in this whole thing. Remember the 50th birthday party, Jeffrey Epstein? There were all those pictures and drawings that he got.
He never drew anything, Trump.
Yeah, Trump.
Even though they had sold for auction for thousands of dollars, his drawings.
It's not my drawing.
No.
I never draw.
I never drew.
And then it turns out, wow.
He's a big drawer. He's actually a fairly talented drawer.
He's pretty good. He's a drawing machine. But that was another one of the, I would say, the misstatements or lies he's made.
Let's go to Amanda in Bridgewater. Hi, Amanda.
Hi. I think what you tell your kids now is super complicated and hard because what keeps coming up for me is, what if the fact is that it's always been this way? We just couldn't see all of it. Like, if you go back to our forefathers, our founding fathers, they're all treating girls like property.
Yeah.
And this isn't new. It's just new that so many of us are able to talk so freely about it. And so that's, for me, the more complicated. Like, it's everyone, and it's been going on forever.
Well, not just protecting men. I thought you were going to say they've been lying to us forever, not quite as relentlessly and uniformly as they do. But
I think the thing that's discouraging, Amanda, is that obviously women were chattel until what time we were middle property and chattel, as you say, and we had slavery. We did all these terrible things. But you'd like to think that after the women's movement, Me Too movement, all these changes in the laws for sex assault and rape, that we've come a long way. I think that's what's sort of depressing about this, and it's also depressing that the government is lying and covering it up.
When did the 19th Amendment pass? Gave women the right to vote. When did that pass?
1920 something.
Yeah.
I should know that.
That was a wonderful point, Amanda. A horrible point.
We've done a lot
point.
of bad. The United States has done a lot of bad things, but this is to a level unforeseen, I think, before, I mean, on every front. The corruption, the lying, the cruelty, it's
relentless.
It's a whole other level.
And when we're talking about Kristi Noem in terms of the continuing to lie thing, you have to do it or you'll obviously lose your job. I mean, I mean you have to, but if you don't do it, the likelihood is good you're gone. What are you laughing about?
I'm laughing at a texter who says Trump is going to clean up the swamp. He's been floating in a swamp for like years and years and years and years and years.
It really is incredible. And I hope, the only good news, even though this came out on a Friday, is it refocuses on the Epstein thing. When you see these incredibly courageous survivors not only do press conferences, testify in front of Congress, give interviews, if you don't believe at the end of those that they deserve total and complete transparency and every
what's
damn
incredible
thing
too?
they want.
They're all complaining about how the ICE people have to have masks over their face to protect them, and yet no problem putting up the names, addresses, and pictures, and nude pictures of these women. So What's that about?
Yeah, that was a mistake, but apparently we can't, again, even though law requires it, disclose the names of any of the alleged abusers.
Okay, coming up after this quick break.
By the way, can I say on Thursday, Andrew Cabral, when she joins us, is going to get into us in great detail about the Epstein files.
Okay, coming up, Michael Curry, the Mass League Community Health Centers and NAACP, tells what's going to happen when ICE comes for Massachusetts Haitians, and also basically getting rid of anything much of what to do with slavery or any kind of references to slavery in Independence Hall under the direction of the Trump administration. He's Jim Browdy. I'm Margery Egan. This is BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, writer and comedian Mo Rocca, a man whose career has astonishing range.
When people would say, what's your 5-year plan? I would say, 5-year plans are overrated. They really didn't work out for the Soviet Union.
What does work for Mo? Sincerity and empathy. Mo Rocca is our guest on the debut of the Curiosity Desk. Today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked number 2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at pem.org.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Margery Egan and Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're at the library tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then Friday. MIT President Sally Kornbluth for the first time joining us on Thursday, and February 10th, noon to 1, is the mayor at the library studio. Joined on Zoom by Michael Curry. Michael's CEO of the Mass League of Community Health Centers and on the board of the National NAACP. Hello there, Michael.
Hey, good to see you both.
You too.
So, Michael, because of climate disasters, hurricanes, terrible violence, poverty, thousands of Haitians have come to Massachusetts. They had temporary protected status. It's going to end this month. So what happens?
Yeah, well, one, credit to all the elected officials, both state and local, state, and federal, that are advocating for Haitian communities. We have the third largest Haitian population in the country in the United States. In Boston, in Massachusetts, I should say. And we know the critical role that they play in our society writ large, and all of our sectors, but particularly healthcare. And we know that this deadline, which I understand to be February 3rd, would mark a period where the Trump administration could move forward with mass deportations of Haitians. Now, I would argue that that's already happening. Now, even if you have a TPS status, this administration is ignoring existing authority to be in this country. But this gives unfettered access for this administration to round up, deport Haitian citizens. And it is terrifying. It is disturbing. I sit right now in Brockton, which is a high Haitian population. And I fear for communities that are understanding that this deadline could impact their families.
Temporary protected status, for those who don't know, is available to people in normal times when there are very dangerous situations back home. Let me read to you what the Department of State under Marco Rubio has said about Haiti right now. They've declared it a level 4 do not travel advisory due to extreme security risks, including widespread violent crime, kidnapping, terrorism, civil unrest, and severe shortages of basic necessities like fuel, water, and food. So we should not travel there, but it is fine to deport several 100,000 Haitians who have done nothing wrong back to a country that has all those conditions. It's really, it's so obviously ridiculous. It's racism. Is that, I mean, almost all these TPS withdrawals are people whose skin color, well, nobody has skin color like Trump, but are not white, essentially. Isn't that so?
Yeah, I mean, it is absolutely racism. And it goes back even pre-Trump administration. This goes back decades where we have identified certain countries that we do not want, we, meaning the United States, is deemed to not be countries we want people moving here from or immigrating from, and Haiti being one of those. Under the Trump administration, they've gotten momentum with that movement, and TPS has been under attack for many, many years. We know that 350,000 Haitian immigrants nationwide are in jeopardy of losing their TPS. And they're winning in the sense that they have some traction both in Congress and now with the law. Now, I push back. Well, I feel that the legal structure is pushing back on this notion that if Haiti is dangerous, then for Marco Rubio to claim, or the state to claim, the federal government to claim that the conditions have changed, so therefore there's no need for a TPS status, is a contradiction. But to your point, Jim, it is blatant racism. We want white South Africans who are being discriminated against. Well, we want to avoid letting Haitians into the country.
Can I ask one last question about this? My understanding is 20%, give or take a few numbers, of Haitians are in home health care. The whole home health care is overwhelmingly served by people who are immigrants. And if it turns out we have 3 more years of what Trump's doing with TPS and immigration in general, I assume it's obvious that the home healthcare industry and individuals who are dependent upon it are completely destroyed. Yes?
Yes. And I think one is folks have to take this from a policy conversation and make it personal. That if your loved one is in a home health agency right now or being cared for in home health, those providers that are treating your patients, that are treating your family, are critical to making sure they're clean, that they are bathed, that they have the services, that they take their medication. And what we're talking about in an industry that already had a 13% vacancy rate, we're talking about devastating their workforce. I don't know, when people get caught up in these sort of partisan divides and political debates, sometimes you just got to say, what does it mean for me and my family? This means no matter whether you're Republican, Democrat, or Independent, this is going to impact you.
Talking to Michael Curry.
So we always talk to Irene Monroe and Emmett G. Price III. They make a joke about how there was full employment in Black History Month. They were going to one event after another event, giving talks and all that kind of stuff. Never had time to talk to us. Well, down at the Kennedy Center, which I guess we've learned over the weekend that Trump is going to shut down for restoration.
I wonder why.
People have been canceling. They don't want to perform there anymore. But anyway, they, too, had a quite robust Black History Month program until now. So what happened?
Yeah, well, one, let's go back to the beginning of Trump, too. So we know on March 27th of last year, he issued and later signed an executive order, 14253, entitled, quote, Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. So we know that he's anti-American history as it pertains to Black history. That being said, with the Kennedy Center, it's a takeover of the Kennedy Center, and that many of the folks who have historically gone and performed, I want people to think about some iconic performances at the Kennedy Center. Beyonce's electrifying 2005 tribute to Tina Turner, Aretha Franklin's show-stopping 2015 rendition of Natural Woman for Carole King, and Jennifer Hudson's 2010 powerful performance for Oprah. Like, that's the memories that are seared in our minds of what the Kennedy Center is, what it should be, and open to all, and lifting up this rich history. But under the Trump administration, they are, I call it, I'm gonna use a legal term, constructive termination. And the whole notion of that is I didn't actually terminate you. I just created conditions that made you quit. So a lot of these entities are now deciding to walk away from the Kennedy Center because of this change in administration and this rhetoric of being anti-history and wanting to create a different Kennedy Center. Also, as I talked to the Kennedy family, disturbing that he wants to rename it and claim, use his title, his name in the title as well.
You know, one of the things I have to say is the vast majority of the mainstream press continues to call it the Kennedy Center, which is what it is legally, which you have to, that is exactly the right and responsible thing to do.
Unlike the Gulf of America and the Gulf of
the vast
Mexico.
majority of media, people still call it the Gulf of Mexico.
Of course. The Associated Press.
Yeah. You know, one last, and maybe the most egregious, even if you can't, well, rating them is ridiculous. I'm a Philadelphia kid. What they did to this slavery display, being the Trump administration through the National Park Service, and the violence with which they did it is such I'm going to say shocking. I don't mean shocking they did it because that's all they do, but explain what happened in Philadelphia, Michael Curry, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so we know that part of this whole effort beginning in the March 27th, 2025 is to really eliminate what Trump deemed to be negative parts of history, or what he said, distorted narratives driven by ideology rather than truth. Revisionist movement that seeks to undermine remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. And in Philadelphia, as an example, this exhibit, this tribute and exhibit had existed for 2 decades, and workers were really charged with removing the outdoor plaques and the recognition of enslaved people on that site. So I think, again, it's a narrative, right? We don't want to tell the truth about slavery. And I would argue, Jim and Margery, if I gave out a quiz on slavery in the United States, 99% of Americans would fail because most of us don't even know the history of slavery. It's something we don't want to revisit, many of us. And under this administration, that ignorance has a home as he attacks this recognition of the impacts of slavery in Philadelphia.
You know, one of the I read an Associated Press story on this, and the thing that stayed with me, I'm sorry I do know the writer, Mary Claire Dale, wrote this. She described, I thought brilliantly, the violence with which they removed the plaques, bringing in crowbars,
yeah,
you know, to extract
and hauling them off.
It is really. And
that could have damaged them.
What?
Exactly.
Of course. Well, you'll also wonder, you may know the answer to this. When they get rid of any part of American history that they don't like, they being the Trump people, what happens to the physical manifestation? I mean, whether it's Smithsonian stuff or from this site in Philadelphia, do we have any idea if any of this is preserved?
I don't know if it's preserved. I know that there are people looking at this to make sure that we are not damaging the tremendous amount of work and, quite frankly, money that went into these exhibits and recognitions of American slavery. So I do feel encouraged by the federal judge in this case that warned the Justice Department lawyers that they were making dangerous and horrifying statements when they said the Trump administration could decide what part of American history to display at the National Park Service sites. Like, there is a pushback in the courts, not just on our streets. There's a pushback in government, Ayanna Pressley and others. So I think I have some confidence that we can fight this.
By the way, that's a George W. Bush nominated judge, if I remember correctly, who issued those statements. And we mentioned last week what NPR is doing. Is this at the Smithsonian? Is they're trying to create a separate archives, which is massive, obviously, for fear that the archives that exist there are going to be compromised.
Somebody's doing it. I'm not sure
I'm
who.
pretty sure NPR is involved now. We're speaking to Michael Curry.
We do know, an Associated Press story said they took the exhibits away in a pickup truck and are putting them in storage, but there's a lot of fear that they may be badly damaged in the interim.
And just a quick point. So we get ready to celebrate 250-year anniversary of this nation. How dare we ignore 1619 and 1865? As if we don't have a responsibility to ourselves and to our children and to their children to understand slavery in this country.
Can we move to your day job for a couple of seconds? We've talked about community health centers, and the damage being done by the feds. And obviously, we've talked about Medicaid cuts, the Affordable Care Act subsidy issue, even though, and we'll ask you, the governor told us on Friday that they're essentially filling the hole for people who can't afford. I didn't do nothing about these pharmacy discounts that the places you oversee get that are about to be compromised again. Can you describe what that program is and how much it means to your centers, Michael Curry?
Yeah, so one is just, it's so important to think about these health centers, and both of you lifted up 60 years ago, created for this exact purpose, to care for rural folks and marginalized and medically underserved communities. And over the course of our existence, Congress was wise enough to advance a 340B proposal that is now law, which then allows safety net providers, hospitals, and community health centers to purchase a drug at a discounted price, and then to make a margin on those prescriptions, and then to use the margins to invest back in the care for those underserved communities. So the 340B program has been critical for over 30 years. And now there's an effort in the federal government to claw back some of those dollars by putting in place a rebate program, which would mean that health centers, as an example, would have to pay for the drug and then apply for the rebates. We don't have the kind of revenue to advance, to put up, to purchase those drugs that some other larger systems might have. This is really about pharmaceutical companies going after the 340B program because they feel there are abuses in the program. The abuse is not health centers. The abuse is not Boston Medical Center. The abuse is not Cambridge Health Alliance that are treating the most vulnerable among us. And unfortunately, the pharmaceutical companies have gained traction with this administration.
You know, Michael, can you, I'm sure you do this internally, but if you have a willingness to share it here, when you add up the impacts of what I described a minute ago, this pharmaceutical discount, Medicaid cuts, Affordable Care Act subsidy reduction, what are your centers that serve, you've told us, more than 1 million people in Massachusetts, which is huge. What do they look like, let's say, at the end of 2026, based on all these cuts?
Well, I'm worried about it. I mean, we just got off a call with the legislature today. I've been on calls with Mike Levine, the Medicaid director. I speak regularly to Kiame Mahania, the Secretary of Health and Human Services. I am deeply concerned because it's a death by 1,000 cuts. It's the loss of the 340B revenue. It's the fact that many of our patients who receive the subsidies under the Affordable Care Act can no longer get those subsidies. So they've dropped off coverage. But we are mandated, and this is the critical point, we are mandated by federal law to see patients regardless of their ability to pay. So if you have Medicaid, we see you. If you have commercial insurance, we see you. If you're uninsured, we see you. If you're underinsured, we see you. We're going to see you regardless. But that has financial implications for us when they don't have an ability to pay it. Mm-hmm. The other part is commercial insurers are not paying their fair share to community health centers. We get paid better by Medicaid than commercial health insurers.
Really?
And those conversations continue. Surprising that you would think, but it's really about market power and leverage, negotiation of power. And we as health centers, despite the fact we serve 1 million patients, 1 in 7 in the state, don't have the negotiation leverage and influence as bigger systems do. So we are being underpaid, even for the commercial payments we see. And some health centers like North End or Fenway and others could have larger percentages of commercial, which means they have higher loss on seeing those patients.
Mike, is this reimbursement you're talking about when you give a service and you don't get reimbursed?
Correct. So,
okay,
you do get reimbursed, but it's not the value. So if it costs me $1 to provide care for you, Margery, then I'm trying to get $1 in reimbursement for that care. But what is happening is in many cases in the commercial side, those reimbursements are well below what's required.
We only have 30 seconds left. One question you can maybe clarify. I thought I understood this when I was asking Governor Healy about it the other day, but then at the end of the interview, I realized I wasn't as up to speed as I should have been. I think it's $250 million or some such figure, a decent amount of money the state is providing to help people who've lost the Obamacare subsidies. Is that covering the total loss or just a portion of what they had been getting?
It covers, it extends the subsidies for many of that population. So that's $250 million. It's only for, I believe, a year.
I see.
And that would mean about 270,000 people making below 400% of the federal poverty level would see little to no premium increases. So they could see increases, but little to no premium increases. And there are many more that are still impacted.
Yeah. Michael, thanks for your time, as always. Really appreciate it.
Michael,
anytime.
Michael's CEO of the Mass League of Community Health Centers on the board of the National NAACP. Coming up after this quick break, immigration attorneys and advocates are calling on Governor Healy to do more to protect Massachusetts residents from Trump's immigration crackdown. On the heels of Healy's new executive order banning ICE from schools and courthouses, 2 lawyers join us to outline additional steps she can and should take in their estimation. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
With recent grads facing a tough job market, young people and even colleges are asking,
what does it mean to be educated?
I'm Kurt Carapezza. On our podcast, College Uncovered, we hear how liberal arts programs are weaving career preparation directly into the curriculum.
The number one reason why students enroll in higher ed is to get a good or better job.
Hear the whole conversation on College Uncovered, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering over 90 short courses that pair MIT research with hands-on frameworks designed to be applied immediately at work. More at executive.mit.edu. And PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865. Proud to support GBH and the Boston Speakers Series. More at pnc.com.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Margery Egan, Jim Browdy. We're streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're at the library tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. On Thursday, we'll be joined in the studio out here by the president of MIT, Sally Kornbluth. Our first discussion with her. On February 10th, Mayor Wu will join us for an hour at the library, noon to 1. That's it. Last week, well, let's start with the Democrats. The Democrats in the United States Senate are threatening an extended shutdown of the federal government unless a variety of things are done, including taking those masks off the faces of ICE agents and requiring warrants. Last week, locally, Governor Healy announced some new restrictions on federal immigration agents as well at particular locations. Our guests think she could go further. Sarah Sherman-Stokes is a clinical associate professor of law and associate director of the Immigrants' Rights and Human Trafficking Clinic at BU School of Law. It's good to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Leah Hastings, were you her student?
I was.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my goodness.
Leah Hastings, staff attorney at Prisoners Legal Services of Massachusetts, which is a wonderful organization where she runs the Immigrant Detention Conditions Project. Good to meet you, too, Leah. Thanks for being here.
Okay, well, we'll start with the teacher, Sarah, here. Even before Trump came into office, you co-wrote this piece about 4 ways Massachusetts can protect immigrants from ICE. So what should we be doing?
Thank you so much for having us, and thank you for asking. So I'm glad that the governor is taking action to try to keep ICE in check. But as you suggested, there's a lot more that the state could be doing. The governor has said she's going to limit the creation of additional 287G agreements, which are cooperation agreements between ICE and the state. And she could cancel the one that we have. We are one of only 15 states that has a 287G agreement with our Department of Corrections.
Explain what that is.
That's an agreement with the Department of Corrections and ICE where they funnel people into the deportation machine. We don't need to have that agreement. She's taking a stand against 287G agreements, and if she really wanted to take bold and courageous action, she should cancel the one remaining 287G agreement that we have.
She said either at her press event, I think it was Thursday or some day like that, or somewhere, that this was only applied to people who had committed serious felonies. Is that not the case? And if it is the case, why shouldn't they be subject to some cooperative agreement?
So first of all, it's not the case, right? So, but even if it were, I would suggest that that's not necessary. We have a criminal legal system. Just because people have interacted with the criminal legal system doesn't mean that they should be deprived of dignity. It doesn't mean they should be deprived of due process. It doesn't mean they don't deserve to stay here and make a life with their families in Massachusetts. The governor suggested that people who are in the Department of Corrections have, quote, done really bad things, and she believes that they should be punished. Well, the criminal legal system has meted out punishment to them, whether or not I agree with that punishment. They don't need to be doubly punished by a civil system, a civil immigration system.
You know, before we get to what the governor proposed, I think it was on Thursday, there were other things in that piece you co-authored, and again, post-election and pre-second inauguration. Leah, tell us what some of the other things were and whether any of them have happened.
Sure. One of the main focuses of...
Is that mic on there?
Turn it up.
Hi. No, that doesn't. Speak again.
Is this better?
Perfect. Go
Okay,
ahead.
excellent. So one of the main focuses that we were coming into that piece with was also on the sole remaining detention center with an ICE contract in Massachusetts, which is Plymouth County Correctional Facility, in which we really haven't seen be the focus of a whole lot of, scrutiny or intended lawmaking over the recent months, and think that should be more of a focus.
Could she change things? Could Healy change things on a state level? I've read the conditions are horrible. I think you have something to do with documenting that. Somewhere 80% plus of the immigrants who are detained there have committed no crimes, from what I understand. Could Healy change that deal, or does that have to be done within Plymouth County?
I guess I want to answer that in two parts. The first part addressing your question about how that can be changed. That can happen at the county level, but it can also happen through passing legislation that bans those sorts of contracts. But I also want to push back a little bit on that 80% figure, because I think framing, the whether or not people deserve to be detained in a place with documented decades of conditions issues, based
regardless
on,
of what they've done.
Exactly. And it really, it shifts the focus from what are the systems that pull people into, the deportation dragnet versus individual deservingness and kind of these narrative shortcuts that we have.
Since you push back, can I push back?
Yeah.
Sure, why not? I would argue that, you could focus more immediately on a narrower population for people who allegedly have committed crimes and are detained in horrible settings if the people who are being detained for no legitimate reason weren't there to begin with. That is factually accurate, right?
But that is the narrative that ICE has been using to justify everything that it has been doing across the country since the start of this administration.
What narrative is that?
The narrative that ICE has been using is that, we wouldn't need to be in the streets. We wouldn't need to be arresting these massive numbers of people and engaging in this egregious violence if state and local law enforcement would just cooperate with us and would just hand over.
I'm not talking about cooperation. I'm just talking about pure detention. The detention is horrible there, and a significant percentage of the people are being detained for no criminal reason, right? Just because.
But why are we taking as a given the fact that some people have to be detained?
Well, by the way, this is the Plymouth place where the people were talking about being freezing and only having one blanket and having short-sleeved pants and short-sleeved shirts and not allowed anymore to have cold air blowing into the cells from the windows. One of the things, I was listening to a podcast about, Obama, the deporter-in-chief, so-called, and he was getting a lot of people at the border, but he was also doing this cooperative thing where people would be in state prison or they would be in jail, and then they would have this notification. And I'm not that worried about the murderers and the rapists, although I'm not sure the murderers would be getting out of jail, period. Most of them are in there for life if you killed somebody. But that is their argument, that he was able to do it then because they would have ICE notification, rapist John is getting out of prison on Tuesday, and could you come pick him up and deport him? And you may say, well, rapist John should get to hang around. But I think, politically speaking, most people aren't that concerned with rapist John. They're concerned with the people that are on the street. So why isn't that a better system?
So I think I want to tease out a couple things from what you said. One is that immigration enforcement has been bipartisan, right?
Yeah.
We know that this did not happen overnight. What we're seeing, the deportation dragnet that Leah referred to, the deportation machine, is something that's been built over decades by Republicans and Democrats, right? We didn't get here. We didn't get to this level of police and ICE violence just because of the Trump administration. It's been years, decades in the making. And it's been decades in the making as a racist, Islamophobic, xenophobic force. The second thing, to your point about, who gets free and who's detained, we have a criminal legal system. The criminal legal system decides what punishment people deserve, whether or not I agree with that, setting that aside. The immigration system is civil. It has been made clear in a number of court decisions that it is not a system that is supposed to be designed to punish. And yet we have immigration detention systems and jails across the country that are holding people in abhorrent positions, right? That are abusive, that are violent, that are putting their lives in danger. We know that at least 6 people have died in immigration detention this year. And by this year, I mean the last 4 weeks alone, right? And these are not Renee Good. These are not Alex Preddy. These are immigrants, people who are in detention and are dying because of the conditions in detention.
That's the voice, by the way, of Sarah Sherman-Stokes from BU School of Law, and she's joined here by Leah Hastings, staff attorney at Prisoners Legal Services. We didn't take this tact at all with Healy the other day. We hadn't read your stuff, in all fairness. My major concern was even that which she was doing, which was based on what we've read about the two of you and listened to, you don't think is adequate. I'm not even sure she can do that. I'm no legal expert there, whether it's supremacy clause or federal laws. We had the Attorney General with us, she's with us every month, and while she's spoken out quite strongly against what you were both speaking out against, says I've limited powers. And we asked the governor the other day, after she enumerated the things she intended to do, whether she agreed with the Attorney General that her powers were limited. Here's what Healy had to say.
I agree with the Attorney General that immigration is a field that the Supreme Court has said is really dominated and led by the feds. And so, the states don't have as much at their disposal to do.
Do you agree with that? Or do you think the states could be? For example, I applauded, like I know Margery did, when Newsom in California and the legislature did the thing about banning masks. My reading of the law, and I am really a crappy lawyer, let me be honest about that, was they probably couldn't do that. What can states get away with?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So the federal government cannot force state governments, and by extension, local governments, to enforce federal law. And that's well established. There's, Supreme Court case law that says so. It's true that ICE and immigration enforcement is the province of the federal government, not state governments. But state governments can do things. What Healy has done, she is on good, solid legal footing to do.
Barring them from daycare centers, churches, places like that.
Yes, those are private places where they need to have a judicial warrant signed by a judge in order to enter. But there's other things that Healy can do.
Like what?
She can cancel the remaining 287G agreement. She can end the BRIC, the Boston Regional Intelligence Center, and other fusion centers. These are surveillance systems.
That was a big debate in Boston, right?
Yeah.
Explain what that is.
The Boston Regional Intelligence Center, or the BRIC, is a fusion center that basically does surveillance on all of us, but especially on communities of color, on activists, on protesters. Mayor Wu campaigned on ending the BRIC, and instead she's pumped millions of dollars into expanding it. This directly feeds people into the deportation machine. If we really cared about communities of color being targeted by ICE, we would end the BRIC. We can say no new ICE contracts in the state of Massachusetts, in addition to canceling the one that already exists. We can end the use of the Burlington field office to hold people for 9, 12, 15 days at a time. There's a number of things that we can do.
Okay, let's get back to Rapist John here for a second. I thought one of the big problems that's really hurting people who are here with civil offenses is this Lake and Riley Act, which was just passed a couple of years ago. She was a young woman that was out jogging, and she was murdered by somebody who was in the country illegally. Because what they're saying is you don't have to be convicted of raping somebody. You just have to be accused of whatever. And that means you're getting rid of people that are convicted criminals, but people who are just accused. And so we all know, well, people are convicted of crimes they didn't commit too, but people that are accused, that's what they're talking about, being able to get rid of. I mean, that's an issue. You're just looking at me.
No, I am. I'm listening, and
I mean, that makes it much worse.
I agree. And I also think that, it's easy in situations like what happened in the Laken Riley case, and what we're seeing with a lot of the PR and media notices that ICE is putting out. They're reaching for the moral panic button. They're reaching for these, really centuries deep tropes within American history that talk about the savagery and animalism of Black and brown people, and really leaning heavy on those tropes in order to create this panic around invasion and aliens and white innocence. And I think it's really crucial to recognize not just that we're talking about what someone was or wasn't accused of, or what someone was or wasn't convicted of, but also these are the shortcuts that they are using to justify, immense just amounts of violence that they're committing against people. And the idea that conduct is premised on somehow saving people from harm.
Leah, if someone is convicted of a horrible crime and in a facility in the United States, should they be able to be deported?
No.
No?
No. Here's how I'll put this to you.
Is her mic working? Okay,
yeah,
say it again.
Yeah. I do work at Prisoners Legal Services, so you can't be super surprised.
I was a legal services lawyer for 7 years and president of the union that represented them for 7 more.
That's a tough one, though, Leah. That's a tough one. I was trying to get at the fact that
let's hear the answer to the question.
Innocent to proven guilty is out the window.
I'm talking about
That's what
guilty.
I'm trying to get
How about guilty? Why not?
The sole difference between someone completing their prison sentence and going back to their community versus someone completing their prison sentence and being deported is a question of citizenship. Full stop.
Okay. Here's something we haven't talked about at all on this show. Well, we have. Actually, we were speaking to somebody the other day. You may remember who it was, about how we were watching Mayor Fry, who I generally admire out there in Minneapolis, who was on a CNN town hall sounding totally powerless to do anything except talk, and I think he speaks quite eloquently about the pain and the lawlessness of ICE and Border Patrol and all those people. What I don't understand, Sarah, is why there is local and state police have done nothing. It's one thing to interfere with ICE or CBP when they're doing their job, and I put that in quotes for the moment so we don't have to argue about that. But when they're pushing two women to the ground, for example, which was immediately before they killed Alex Preddy the other day, why isn't there a role for local police legally to engage, not to interfere with what ICE is lawfully doing, but to interfere with what the abuse they are visiting on people in the community? Can they legally do that?
Yeah, I just want to amplify one thing that Leah said, which I think is really important, around whether or not someone should be deported for having been convicted of a serious offense. And I do want to emphasize that we're talking about the difference between someone serving a sentence versus being exiled from their life, their family, their community, because they happen to be born on the wrong side of a made-up border. And that's what I think, we're getting at, and that I'm with Leah on this, that I can't get behind, right? I can't get behind that.
I would just argue it's the wrong political fight, but you're obviously entitled to your position.
I'm not running for office, but
I hear, but it is part of a political discussion as well as a legal discussion.
But
How about
your
local
question,
cops?
Sure, to your question, I think we are naive and short-sighted if we think that the police are here to protect us. The police are not going to intervene because it's not typically in their interest to intervene and go up against federal authorities. It's just not. The police, the police Black and brown communities and protesters and people who are speaking out for Palestinian rights. And, they're not there to keep protesters
Those
safe.
two women look like white women to me, for whatever it's worth, out there in Minnesota.
I think white folks are finally feeling what Black and brown and immigrant communities have felt for a long time.
That's, with all due respect, it's a political answer. That's not my question. My question is a legal question. Despite the inability to whatever interfere with the activities, the legal activities of any of these federal alleged law enforcement officers, let's look at that one circumstance. Could local cops have intervened there to make sure that those women were not physically abused as they were, for example, Or, by the way, Alex Preddy, before he was shot, when he was sprayed, when he was pushed around, that sort of thing. Do they have a legitimate role there? Should they choose to exercise it?
I think so. But they have to be empowered to do that by state and local government, right? State and local government have to stand up and say, local police, we want you to keep our citizens safe in the following ways, right? But unfortunately, what we're getting from a lot of government is either silence or a little, too late in terms of coming to the party and, standing up for immigrant communities.
Okay, we only have a minute left. If you had to pick the one most important thing that the state could do, one, right now that Healy and the legislature have legal right to do, starting with you, Leah, then you, Sarah, what was the one thing you would have them do?
I would have them end the fusion centers.
Okay, and how about you?
Cancel the DOC 287G.
How many people do you think, how many people does that affect? That
Leah would probably know better than I would.
How many do you think?
Between 400 and 500 people have detainers in the DOC.
I just got to say one thing, Sarah, having covered so many demonstrations in my life as a reporter, cops do serve a purpose in keeping some people safe at demonstrations. That's not entirely fair. I'm just going to push back on that.
In any case, we thank you both for your time. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Good to see you both. Thanks.
Thank you both very much for having us. Thank you so much.
We've been speaking with Sarah Sherman-Stokes, Clinical Associate Professor of Law and Associate Director of Immigrants' Rights and Human Trafficking Clinic at BU School of Law, Leah Hastings, staff attorney, her student at Prisoners Legal Services of Massachusetts. Well, they were, teacher and student. It's kind of nice. Where she runs the Immigrant Detention Conditions Project. Thank you so much for being here. We say goodbye to the folks listening on NEPM. 413 is on at 3 o'clock this afternoon. The show continues here in Boston. After a quick break, the guy who knows everything about coffee, George Howell, Coffee Connection. He's going to be here next. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM.
Support GBH and unlock the best of NPR and PBS, all bundled in one. With the GBH Super Bundle, you'll get NPR Plus and GBH Passport. So give a little, get a lot in return. Learn more at gbh.org/superbundle.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Edmonia Lewis, Said in Stone, a retrospective of the 19th century Black woman sculptor. More at PEM.org. And Central Square Theater with The Moderate, an inside look at the experience of content moderators by Drama Desk-winning playwright Ken Urban, begins February 6th. CentralSquareTheater.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome back to BPR. We have a new schedule today, friends. So we're a little bit compromised. We're a little bit confused. But actually, most days we're compromised and confused. I'm Jim Browder. She is Margery Egan. We're streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're at the library tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. Oh, my God. George Howell is here. You're his daughter, right?
I am.
Hi, Jim Browder. Nice to see you. A pleasure. We are at the library Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. There's no news at the top of the 1 o'clock hours of today. That's why we're a little screwed up. Sally Kornbluth, who is the president of MIT, is going to join us out here in Brighton on Thursday. February 10th, Mayor Wu joins us for an hour of Ask the Mayor at our BPL studio. Today, you can find a cafe just about anywhere you turn in Boston, but 50 years ago, the pickings were slim. It was basically just Dunkin', Diner Coffee, or Folgers at home. Not many places prioritize roast types, tasting notes, or coffee bean farmers. Enter the Coffee Connection, which first opened in the garage in Harvard Square in 1975, offering individually brewed cups of coffee and over 20 retail varieties. The founder, George Howell, I've never met till today. George Howell's in our studio, hand-labeled every bag with roast dates. That was the first. The cafes were bustling spots captured in this GBH Archives clip from the 80s with a helpful barista pouring cups of joe and explaining to customers how best to enjoy their French press coffee orders.
One decaf medium? Yeah. Okay, what size COD? Okay. Room for cream or milk?
Very glad to meet you. I listen to you all the time.
175.
175, okay. Okay, we'll get a little more money then. Break the bank. Do I wait a certain amount of time?
Yeah, about 1.5, 2 minutes, depending on how strong you want it.
Love that. George Howell sold all 24 Coffee Connection cafes to Starbucks in 1994. We'll ask him if he regrets it in a minute. 10 years later, Howell founded George Howell Coffee Company, which later opened more cafes in Greater Boston. Through the last 50 years, Howell has also worked on increasing economic sustainability for coffee farmers, has dedicated his life to educating people about what makes a good cup and why they should drink it. Margery, black. He's here with us in Studio 3 to try to convince the two of us of that and to talk about a variety of 50th anniversary celebrations happening this month. George, I've been a long-time admirer. It's great to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
Our pleasure.
I won't show you my cafe au lait. I'll hide it over here. But tell people that don't know, how did the whole Coffee Connection thing begin? It was many, many years ago, but tell us how it started.
It started with me moving with my wife and 2 children with number 3 on the way. Driving from where specialty coffee started, San Francisco Bay Area, right? And so we drove all the way here, ran out of coffee a few weeks later, right, that we brought with us, and suddenly discovered how bad the coffee was.
Wait a second. Don't gloss over that. As you're driving from the West Coast to the East, what at least I've read, I don't know if it's legend or true, is you would carry a French press and make coffee at each of your stops?
Yes.
By your...
Yeah.
How'd they react to that?
But we had the French press, so it was very easy to do.
I know, but how did the people in the restaurants and the diners
I would have
react
several
to this?
people always come up and say, "What are you doing?"
So you're in some diner in the middle of East Overshoe, and you got the coffee, the French press, and you're pouring it into the...
Exactly.
I love it. I just love it.
So I had no idea I'd be in the business.
So when you formed this in 1975, do you know what you were doing?
Hardly. I didn't know anything.
And
right,
what was the state of coffee availability and consumption in Boston, Cambridge, and 50 years ago?
It was just run of the mill. I mean, you did have a place in Cambridge that had many barrels with open coffee beans, because in those days you scooped coffee, right, with all the different names. I had the roaster who did those coffees out of New Hampshire come to my apartment when I started on this, and he said, "Here's a bag of Central, here's one of Brazil, and this one is Colombian, and I'll mix them anyway. You got Jamaican Blue Mountain, you got Kenya, you got everything, right?" So that's when I said, I got to buy my own roaster.
Okay, so the great coffee started in San Francisco.
By the way,
but when you were,
I got to have you try this.
Oh, yes. What are we trying?
Okay. Try the big cup first, the small one.
Wait a minute.
The one that has the least coffee in it.
Least coffee, yes.
Right, the bigger one.
I can't tell.
Okay.
This one has the least coffee in it, I think, right?
No, but you want to try this first.
Okay.
Okay, this is a Costa Rican coffee. Light roast.
Okay.
Quite
You know
sweet.
what?
Yeah.
This does not taste like usual coffee.
That's right.
And you said light roast. That's
It does
critical.
not.
That's one of your calling cards. Light
It really
roast.
is.
Why do you not like dark roast?
I have adjusted to some degree. Like espresso, I want a darker roast, period.
There's more caffeine in light
You put this, no, they're identical.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Margie's been spreading that falsehood,
I've been
George Howell,
lied
for
to.
decades. I want you to know.
Specialty, one of specialty's specialty is misinformation.
Okay.
A lot of the time.
That's delicious.
Before you have us taste the second.
Now,
Yep.
Oh, you want to just go down the line here?
Yes.
And then we'll...
Just one more thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because I wanted to get you to the main event.
Okay.
This one is the same coffee that we did not freeze. So we kept this in the freezer, in the warehouse, unfrozen. And you'll notice how it's completely changed. It's rougher. It has a paper bag kind of taste to it.
I don't drink black coffee, but it is
this
great.
first one,
It is
one
fabulous.
is supposed to be much better, right?
Are you contemptuous
Yes.
of people like us who I put milk in Margery? But
No.
be honest. Yes,
hey,
you are.
no. When I'm traveling, what do you think I do?
Okay. You do?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because the coffee's so crappy.
Yeah,
is what you mean.
forget
Okay,
it.
fine. So if you have high quality, you drink it black.
That's exactly right.
That's what I was going to say. When you were a kid,
Yeah.
because the coffee was so bad,
Yeah.
you must have tried to. I think that's how people end up putting cream in it and sugar in it to make it taste palatable, because it tasted so awful and burnt and terrible.
When I went to Yale and all the rest of it, I was going to George and Harry's, and I was getting my big iced coffee with tons of milk in it.
Yeah, I think that's
the
why
way-
we did it.
You know, I have a little, before you get us to the third cup here, the pièce de résistance or whatever it is. I was speaking to a guy who knows you fairly well. This is a quiz for you, George Howell, to see how much. This is a radio appearance celebrating your 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
Who was your host on one of your first radio appearances ever in Greater Boston? You know who was? I'll give you a hint. He was a fill-in.
Here?
Not at this in this city.
I think his name Chuck Kramer. Was
no,
the
I'm
one
sorry, that was not it.
Chuck Kramer, I remember him. He was a riot.
Answer. He was a fill-in host for Gene Burns. His name, you may have heard of this guy, was Roger Berkowitz. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course.
Roger told me this morning he was your host filling in for Gene Burns. And by the way, coincidentally, I should say, Roger's Fish and Chips soft opening at Terminal A today, maybe to celebrate your 50th anniversary.
Insane.
Okay, back to current events. What is this?
So this is Tumaco from La Esmeralda out of Panama. La Esmeralda sold the most expensive coffee in the world. This is not it.
Oh, this is delicious.
This is great.
This is the famous Gesha variety, right? That coffee, they did 2 pounds of it exactly, and it went in auction, and it sold for $13,000 per pound.
Per pound?
Per pound.
And who would drink that?
I should say per kilo.
Who would drink that? Well, it's 2.2 pounds. It's not.
People in the Middle East, mostly, or Asia. People with a lot of money, obviously.
How many cups of coffee do you drink a day?
It can vary anything from about 1 or 2 cups to quite a few.
How do you feel about decaf?
It can be very good, but it's not great.
Okay.
It just isn't.
Okay.
We are getting one that's done in Colombia.
Which is better.
It's the best I can find.
Okay.
It's very smooth.
Before we get to your rules of the road, which I think are a black, light roast, home grind, and freeze what's left over. Those are at least the ones that I've pulled together. You should say to people, since you are back in the business relatively big time, tell people where your locations currently are.
The key
a little
one,
closer to the mic, George, if you don't mind.
Sorry.
Please. That's
of course.
Go ahead.
So Newtonville is the one we first started. That's the early beta cafe, if you will. Then on Washington Street, 505, Downtown Crossing, next to the Godfrey Hotel. And then the third one is that we just opened at the Lyric. Where Mass Ave meets Newbury Street.
Oh, okay.
And then we are also at the Love Struck bookstore.
It's fabulous
cafe.
Bookstore. Great coffee there,
in Harvard Square. That's right.
It's fabulous.
Now, I suspect I know the answer before I ask, but I'll ask anyway. How do you feel about Dunkin' Donuts?
Oh, yeah. They're kind of like, I'm done with that.
Okay.
Now, George Howell, in addition to being sort of the pioneer of specialty coffee, which I think is a fair descriptor of you.
I am, yeah.
You're also responsible, with little assist from Seattle, for Frappuccino. Is that not correct?
That's right. Yeah, we did not invent Frappuccino.
But you named it and sort of perfected
We named it.
And then when you sold the whole operation, you sold the name to...
The name, that's right.
A couple of quick questions. One, do you regret the sale in 1994?
Not really.
Why?
It was very tough when I did it because I knew I was letting down a lot of people working for me and customers. 6 kids, most of them going to college at that moment.
Oh, my God.
Starbucks coming in, in their usual style of just multiplying everywhere. It just wasn't. And a key thing was also the fact that I'm not in the business of coffee for the business. I'm there to share my discoveries.
By the way, this is fabulous.
It's fantastic.
It really is. So wait, go down my list with me.
Yeah.
Black we've discussed.
Yes.
Light roast discussed. Grind at home. Don't buy ground.
Absolutely.
Why
it's
is
a
that?
huge difference because coffee really starts to go downhill very quickly.
When you say,
well, stay on that. How quickly are we talking about?
Well, one, it's sold in a bag that has a one-way valve, right? So that way it can hold up quite a few weeks. Like we have some coffees being sold at Whole Foods, 3 months. We pull everything off the shelf at 3 months, unlike other people where it lasts a year plus.
Yeah.
Right? And you just have to look at the roast date.
And how long will freezing preserve the best of that batch of coffee?
If you're buying roasted coffee, you don't freeze it until you've opened the bag. Okay? So you make your first brew without it having been frozen. Then you have a Ziploc on our bags. So now you Ziploc it push out the air, right? Freeze it right away. So that way you stop the loss of CO2 that's coming out of the coffee, one, and you stop any chemical reactions. That can last that way a month or two.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I get this straight. Are you saying that you would, because what I do is I grind what I need.
Yeah.
And then
that's good, right?
And then I just make the coffee from what I need.
Yep.
But am I supposed to freeze the whole beans?
Yes, you freeze the whole beans. Yeah,
okay.
and then when you grind it, the colder the better.
Okay.
The colder it is, the more the grind actually becomes more even.
So I should keep
it's more brittle,
yeah.
so it evens out.
And it's better to keep it in one of these containers than like in a mason jar. That's.
I put it right here, and just the key thing is to close it right away.
Okay.
Not let the oxygen in.
And then put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And take it out when you're ready to grind some more.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Just take out what you need.
Susan Lee on
again,
YouTube says, thanks to George Howell, I drink my coffee exclusively black now. So I didn't get to ask you my second Frappuccino question. So not only are you responsible, well, again, with an assist from the Seattle people for this, if I were to do a game with you and I'd say something and then you'd state the opposite. If I said black coffee, the opposite would be Frappuccino. Would you not admit? So is that odd?
Coffee, I would say cafe latte.
Okay. But, okay, so even if not, it is odd that both black coffee is recommended by the guru of specialty coffee and that Frappuccino exists thanks to you. Do you find that to be odd?
Well, summertime was always a lagging thing. And with Coffee Connection, I only had cafes. We had no wholesale at all. So it was a concern. And the more money I could get summer to be, the more we could go out and buy really great coffee.
You know, I don't know if this is true. Margery says regularly that the Kendall Square Cinema, you're only allowed in if you wear a beret. And I don't know if that's true or not. I have to say, when I used to go in the Coffee Connection, the garage, there were a lot of berets there, George. Would you not agree that was the case? A lot of berets, right?
Certainly in mind, if not on head.
We're talking to George Howell.
Listen to this. This is from Pam, who's texting in from YouTube. In addition to amazing coffee, the Coffee Connection had hot chocolate that would knock your socks off.
Yeah, that's right. We're working on a hot chocolate now for our cafes.
Do you have any secrets for hot chocolate lovers?
I can't really speak to that. We're working on it right now. But the one I'm really interested in, and by the way, my hat's off to a place. What is it called? They're in Salem, Massachusetts. Kakawa.
We've heard of them, I think.
Right, and they do this espresso-like dark chocolate, right? That is amazing.
So why the French press?
The French press, that is what I would recommend to restaurants.
Okay.
Okay, because they're buying their multi-$1,000 espresso machine. They need a barista to really do it. They can't afford it. They get their waiters to do it, and the whole thing falls apart. Might work with a lot of milk, but not for an espresso. Right?
Now you work. Two of your kids are working with you. Is that correct?
No, just Jennifer.
Jennifer was in here a minute ago.
Correct.
I was going to say at least recognize Jennifer.
Yeah, she's the one.
How's working with your kid? With a kid, and how's your kid feel about working with you?
Fantastic.
Would she say the same thing?
Yeah.
Is Jennifer in there?
She would.
Where is Jennifer? Ask Jennifer how she likes working. How do you like working with your father? Tell the truth, Jennifer. Oh, she said it's amazing. Well, they
vibe together.
It's working
really
terribly well. So
French press.
I'm sorry. Yes,
is really great for a restaurant because then they don't need a barista. They can put the same amounts of coffee in with a scoop or whatever into a French press and pour hot water into it, serve it at the table. And so if the three of us are at a restaurant, you could have Mamudo, Kenya, you could have a Costa Rican, and I could have a Guatemalan, and we're drinking it well made.
Well, you also feel like you're making it, which is a real asset kind of thing.
It's like, why is that not happening? To me, that's as opposed to a drip where you need a waiter standing there for 3 to 5 minutes pouring it. They don't have the time.
We're with you.
Yeah, I've seen like little individual French presses. I had one of those for a while where you kind of press it down. It was makes like
that's why it's called a press.
But there are big fresh presses too that have like 4 cups.
All different sizes.
Yeah.
That's
George, how are with climate change and tariffs? How is the cost?
It was the climate change that really killed us. The tariffs were an irritant to it, but prices had soared to pretty much over double at the high point, because for 4 years in a row, consumption was higher than production across the board, around the world, right? Mainly due to things like China growing at an incredible rate for coffee. So that was the killer. So most of the coffees was a 10% tariff on top of that. It certainly was an irritant.
Well, Brazil was even higher, right?
And Brazil, yeah, we bought 80,000 pounds of Brazil, and then he upped the thing to 50% before the coffee arrived, so we had to pay that.
Oh, my God.
Right. I mean, insane, right?
So what's going to happen with all these changes in the climate? I mean, where are we going to be buying coffee from in 20 years, 50 years? Do we know?
It's a huge concern.
Yeah.
There are organizations working on producing new hybrid varieties, taking plants that are called Robustas. It's a different species of coffee, double the caffeine content, and to me, very bitter tasting, right? Not a great coffee, but if you can create a hybrid between that and the Arabica, which is what you're drinking here, you can produce a much better coffee. But the level will not, in my opinion, so far is not attaining what was, right? That's a real concern. What I'm doing with Mamuto is working with a farm since 2006, trying to keep the old variety going because it's extraordinary. It's got a blackberry flavor that no other coffee in the world has. I don't want it gone.
So we're getting tons of texts. Apparently, people feel great connection to you. I'm going to mispronounce Rye, I believe, on YouTube. Please ask what happened to Guadalupe Miramar. It was their best bag of beans.
We just brought it back.
Well, perfect timing. And this is a segue to you telling us what's happening to celebrate the 50th anniversary. A, on YouTube, asks, can we visit his roaster in Acton? So answer that and tell us what's coming up.
Yeah, you need to look at our website. I believe that's on Wednesday.
What's the website?
Sure.
What's the website?
GeorgeHowellCoffee.com.
Yep.
Okay, tell us
Very
the kinds
simple.
of things that are happening to celebrate the anniversary.
That will be a tasting of some of the really extraordinary coffees that we have.
I mean, these are like at a whole other level, obviously.
Right.
I feel like
you can only get those flavors with a light roast because the darker you go, the more you're adding the roast flavor. It's like a piece of toast. The darker you go, you're starting to taste the burn more and more. That flavor.
And the reason you don't want cream or milk is sort of adulterates the...
Totally.
Okay.
It makes it disappear. If we had this, sadly, it was on the cool side already, but if we had this hot, you would have really been amazed at the floral notes that just come straight from
I would
the
drink
nose.
this black, not even if George was not looking. I have to say, it's really...
Yeah.
So, George, I'm a little concerned here. I went to the website. Does it have the events that are happening around this anniversary or no?
Oh, boy. I came unprepared for that
Jennifer,
question.
you around? Jennifer, hello. Stick your head in there. How do people find out? Okay. Great.
Okay.
Jennifer just said if you go to their Instagram account, it has all of the events that are coming up. George Howell Coffee's Instagram.
Now you know
page.
one of the myriad reasons why I have Jennifer by my side.
I have a feeling that's not the only reason there, George Howell.
Yeah.
Well,
this
happy
has been a big
anniversary.
treat.
This is really,
Well,
by the
thank
way,
you.
the coffee
The coffee
really was a joy.
connection.
I just moved here in the early mid-'80s, and going into your place was one of the great joys. It was really, really great, and always wanted to meet you. I'm glad we
Well,
finally
thank
did.
you. It is a real love affair.
Well, it's obvious it is.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations
Congratulations.
on a fantastic career
Keep
and
going.
pleasing so many thousands of people with so many great cups of coffee. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Are you going to have black coffee tomorrow morning? Let's do that and see how we could do it. Okay?
Maybe I could try. I'm always thinking
Well,
someone
we
give
have
me
a bunch of coffees here for you.
Are you
Oh, my
leaving those
goodness.
things for us?
These
Oh, my
are all
goodness.
here.
We
We
have
have no
presents.
excuse.
We have presents. Okay.
Including what you just drank. This is the Tumaco.
I'll be taking that. Thank you very much.
That's-
Margery, I'll tell you how it was.
Thank
This
you,
little
Jim.
bag, a quarter of a pound, $125.
Is that so?
$125?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Well, if you know George Howell,
I
you
think
can,
we
you
should.
know what I
I
mean?
think we should.
But
flip a
not
coin.
that we don't have less expensive.
Okay.
We're everything from what we think is affordable or reasonable all the way up. I want a rainbow of coffee.
We got
Rainbow
it.
of coffees.
Right? That's really critical.
Oh, before you go, actually, we're over, but in 30 seconds, I forgot to ask about, speaking of rainbow, this palette thing you were doing. Tell us about that quickly if you can.
Quickly. So that's what you see here. the Esmeralda, notice, very much less coffee flavor, which is the brown at the bottom, and more crazy other flavors, floral and so on, and fruit, right? So if you have, here's the one. This is actually the Mexican coffee that we were just talking about, the Miramar. This is the coffee.
Okay.
So they're
like
color-coded,
90%
essentially.
coffee flavor.
Great. Love that.
Right? We're the only ones
Very
doing
helpful.
it in the world.
Well, you're the only one doing a lot of things. George Howell, thanks,
Thank
and
you so
happy
much for
anniversary.
coming in.
And Jennifer, thanks for coming along. Appreciate it.
Thanks for remembering that question.
We have been speaking with coffee entrepreneur George Howell, who is celebrating 50 years in the Java industry. GeorgeHowellCoffee.com.
And Instagram is G Howell Coffee, we're told.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
He
coming up
just
after a
learns.
quick break,
Ouch.
we're going to talk to GBH Executive Arts Editor Jared Bowen. We're going to talk about the Grammys. We're going to talk about the Melania, the documentary, which Jim saw yesterday, so the
I
rest
saw
of us
34 minutes
would
of
not
it.
have to. I'm Margery, and he's Jim Browdy, listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, T, an MBTA musical. If you've ever been stalled by a shuttle bus, delayed by a signal problem, or cursed a Charlie card reader, this show is your express line to catharsis. It's a show that turns Boston Transit headaches into over-the-top comedy. It barrels through the chaos of the T and asks, is this system off the rails, or can it get back on track? That and more on The Culture Show today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Brightbound. Careers aren't one size fits all, and Brightbound helps students as young as middle school identify their strengths and find careers that fit them just right. Learn more at britebound.org. And Safety Insurance, offering a variety of home insurance products to cover your home's increased value. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance. Safety Insurance will help you manage life's storms.
Welcome back to BPR. Margery Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're joined now in Studio 3 by Jared Bowen, Executive Arts Editor at GBH, host of The Culture Show, airs daily at 2 o'clock on 89.7. Jared's here because he spent all week, I was about to say, at various Melania screenings, but it appears among the three of us, I'm the only one who went. Hi, Jared. Nice to see you.
You're the only one, yeah.
That's right.
Well, there were no advanced screenings for critics, and I didn't have an opportunity over the weekend, so I didn't see it.
It's okay.
Here I am.
wouldn't have gone either, Jared.
Ask me all the questions you want.
Okay.
Before we get to that, can we talk for a second about the Grammys last night? You saw the Grammys, I hope?
I saw, a lot of it.
Here is some celebrity, I don't think enough, but some celebrities spoke up beautifully about ICE, including, here's Bad Bunny and then Billie Eilish.
Before I say thanks to God, I'm going to say ICE out. We're not savage, we're not animals, we're not aliens, we are humans, and we are Americans. The only thing that is more powerful than hate is love.
It's just really hard to know what to say and what to do right now, and I feel really hopeful in this room, and I feel like we just need to keep fighting and speaking up and protesting, and our voices really do matter, and the people matter, and I say sorry.
Let me tell you something. I loved that moment, I should say. That was the F-bomb that was dropped by
she didn't
Billy
say
Usher.
ice out. She said a little bit more than ice out.
She said something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there weren't that many people that I heard that mentioned this. But
A lot of them wearing ice out buttons, though.
They were wearing the buttons, and I think that we're starting to hear more from people than we were hearing before. Because I think for a while there, we were watching these award shows where nobody was saying anything of any political nature, and a lot of that is due to the fact that all of these entertainment corporations, labels, studios are owned by increasingly fewer organizations that all have ties to the Trump administration, but more and more people stepped out. And I think, of course, the big one is going to be the Super Bowl this weekend when you have Green Day and Bad Bunny.
Don't you love it?
Neither of them have been retreating when they've been talking about politics.
And by the way, speaking of Grammys briefly for a second, we have our buddy Andres Nelsons, the music director of the BSO. BSO won 2 Grammys last night. One for Best Orchestral Performance and one Best Classical Instrumental category. And they just happen to have a particular cellist as part of that. That would be Yo-Yo Ma. So congratulations to the BSO, Andres and Yo-Yo.
So before we move on to Melania, anything stick out to you to the Grammys? Was there any overall theme or anything you wanted to mention, or winners or losers or anything?
No, there's no overall theme, which is what I love about the Grammys, because I think the performances are so disparate, and you have young and you have old, and you have these great tributes that happen all the time. It was great to see Lady Gaga doing all her Lady Gaga-ness.
That basket on her head.
Which I thought was fantastic. She could still play the keyboard and have the basket over her head. Justin Bieber forgetting to put all his clothes on. That is
he was in his underpants.
Very conversation worthy. I mean, Kendrick Lamar is fantastic.
He is
it was
fabulous.
so great. I love his music, and to see him win, I thought the Grammys are the one award show that it's really fun to watch because of the performances.
Yeah, it's great fun to watch. I love when they had the people like ascending up. They stood in one guy was standing on that little round disc, and he went up and up and up and up and up, and the dancing was. I mean, it's really fun.
And the Roberta Flack tribute.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Just reminded me how much I love her music, and clearly how much the musicians loved her music.
And what's the woman's name with the dress with the nipples? She had her skirt attached.
Chaperone.
Yeah,
chaperone.
Yeah, her skirt was held up by nipple rings.
Yeah.
Who doesn't do that? A lot of people do that.
Well, there was concern about if someone accidentally stepped on her dress. You know what I mean?
Well, they have. I'm not sure they would be upset if that happened, because a lot of those things are stunts.
If somebody's dress was held up by nipple rings in Melania, it would have been a better.
Oh, boy.
I lasted 34 minutes. And I want to say I've taken a lot of heat for going. I did something, I don't think it's a crime. I bought a ticket to another movie. It was not my idea. A friend of mine suggested.
I said,
you're the one
I
said
told
it.
you on the air the other day.
And then I walked into Studio 12 or
Who'd you
Theater
give your
12.
money to?
What?
Who'd you give your
Marty
money?
Supreme. That's okay, right? That's fine. I went to one. I didn't go to Marty Supreme, so I didn't steal an extra movie. I can't be as clever or as. I have never seen anything duller, more vapid. I've never seen people duller and more vapid. And this guy, I mean, it's just there's no words to describe how horrible. Having said that, the movie made more money in its opening weekend than was projected by almost a factor of 2, twice as much money as was projected.
Very white older women in red states.
Regardless.
$7 million. It was estimated maybe $1 million, but it is flopping internationally. And again, we're talking about a movie that's $75 million to make, that Jeff Bezos funded as pretty much as a way to get money to Melania Trump.
Well, you know what it is? It's so missing the moment. I mean, here we have these horrible situations with ICE. Here we have people losing their health care. Here we have all these concerns about finances. And it's just a total Marie Antoinette kind of moment. Let them eat cake. You know,
I only stayed for 34 minutes, and I would say, I didn't time it, 17 of the 34 minutes were her trying on dresses for the inauguration. And my favorite moment, I told Margery, again, I only saw the first half hour. I just couldn't take much more. Well, I couldn't take any more. My favorite moment is Trump and Melania are sitting down with the planner of the parade for the inaugural. And he's about 35 years old. The guy says to them, he said, the parade will be fairly standard for presidential parades. And as soon as he says that, there's silence in the room. And he says, I mean, much better than standard, much bigger than standard. You can't even say that in front of Trump. and that was it. So that's it. So you're never going to see it.
Well, to be honest with you, in all fairness, I typically don't go to see these movies where I know that it isn't an independent third party looking at them. And it's the case for a lot of documentaries, that it's the person who it's featuring has editorial control. I don't have a lot of interest in that, so I'll probably check it out at some point, but not immediately.
You ever going to see it?
It'll be on television in like
Well, it'll be on Amazon Prime in a few weeks.
But, I'm so upset about everything. Why do I want to go spend 2 hours just being nauseated?
You go 34 minutes like I did.
Yeah, 34 minutes.
I'm surprised you made 34 minutes.
Like you did.
What are you doing at 2 o'clock today?
So we're going to be talking about T, an MBTA musical, which is back on stage, maybe in time to the weather, and there's a little bit more material for them to go after. Peggy Fogelman, who is the director of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum.
Yeah,
guess how many years she's been on the job?
Don't know.
5.
30?
10.
No,
10 years.
is that true?
Aren't we all shocked about time these days? But
yes.
she's a decade on the job, so we'll talk about that. And then we will go out to Worcester for a new version of A Midsummer Night's Dream set in a 1980s nightclub.
That sounds great.
Yes, so there are highlights.
We'll be listening. 2 o'clock. Jared Bowen. Jared, it's nice to see you.
Great to see you both.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jared. We're also discombobulated here. We've been
Really?
we've been speaking with Jared Bowen.
Normal level
He's
of
not
discombobulation.
discombobulated. He's executive arts editor of GBH and host of The Culture Show, which airs right here on 89.7 at 2 o'clock, not right after us as it usually did before. Okay, coming up after this quick break, what makes the perfect scrambled egg? Celebrity chefs have their methods. Jim has his own. We're going to open the lines for a little light discussion on the humble, fluffy, hopefully not rubbery scrambled egg. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browdy. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
With recent grads facing a tough job market, young people and even colleges are asking,
what does it mean to be educated?
I'm Kurt Carapezza. On our podcast, College Uncovered, we hear how liberal arts programs are weaving career preparation directly into the curriculum.
The number one reason why students enroll in higher ed is to get a good or better job.
Hear the whole conversation on College Uncovered, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Mass General Brigham. In heart surgery, expertise matters. Mass General Brigham Heart and Vascular Institute performs thousands of surgeries each year and is committed to research and innovation.
Middleton, a regional law firm with over 100 attorneys and locations in Woburn and Boston, serving clients for over 100 years in the areas of corporate law, tax law, litigation, and estate planning. McLean.com.
Welcome back to BPR. Margery Egan, Jim Browdy, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Library tomorrow, Wednesday, and Friday. Thursday in our Brighton studio, Sally Kornbluth, president of MIT, joins us. We're really looking forward to that. Mayor joins us at the library February 10th from noon to 1 for Ask the Mayor. By the way, relating to the top of the show at 11 o'clock, Trump claims the latest Epstein release, quote, absolves him. I mean, it's really... Okay, it's almost 1 o'clock, and somehow that means we're almost done for the day. So we're ending the show with you and the humble, fluffy scrambled egg. We're inspired by Chef Gordon Ramsay, known for his fiery temper, legendary beef Wellington, which I love. Here's Ramsay's tip.
The secret of any good scrambled egg is in stopping the eggs from overcooking. We never whisk our eggs before we cook them. I take a couple of knobs of butter. On with the heat, and we start stirring. The egg's starting to cook. I'm 60 seconds on. I come off now. I whisk it back in. I'm off for 30 seconds. I go back on. I turn the gas down, and we whisk. Now, to stop them from overcooking, a little touch of creme fraiche. The creme fraiche cools. And there we have a beautiful, stunning, amazing scrambled egg.
Margery's in ecstasy. So whole milk, cottage cheese, cream cheese. What are your tips and tricks for the perfect fluffy scramble? You know, we talk about comfort food in difficult times and cold weather. The egg is the perfect comfort food. Or maybe you're like our executive producer, Jamie, and you have this fun, nostalgic memories of La Quinta International Breakfast made exclusively of rubber, which is mostly what they taste like. Scrambled eggs and you, 877-301-89. I have to say, I do not put creme fraiche But I've been putting milk in my scrambled eggs
so
forever. And you know what I also do?
I also put cheese in.
You do.
Yes.
You know what I also do? I often saute onions and put them in.
Very nice.
And I always, when I say always, I mean always, Margery, put in crushed red pepper flakes into my scrambled eggs.
Isn't that special?
Thank you.
I want to hear from Julia Child.
What'd she say?
Because I love Julia Child. Here's GBH's own great late Julia Child on the superiority of eggs.
Welcome to the French Chef. I'm Julia Child. You know, the egg can be your best friend if you just give it the right break. And I'm not talking just about breakfast eggs, but eggs for brunch, eggs for lunch, eggs for appetizers, for company, and eggs for elegance.
And eggs for dinner. She left out dinner. Do you ever have eggs for dinner?
Absolutely.
Isn't it a cuddly? It's a Huguet kind of thing, I think. 877-301-8970. The scrambled egg and you. By the way, here's an anonymous texter at our staff meeting this morning. I mentioned cottage cheese. Add a dollop of cottage cheese when whisking the egg. Take off the heat when they still look slightly, quote, wet. They will continue cooking in the pan.
They do continue cooking in the pan. That's very important to remember. You can also put cream cheese. I've done cream cheese many times. I've done avocados.
Oh.
I also do something called the spaghetti pancake.
No.
Yeah, where it's not scrambled eggs, but you put the eggs in with the milk, you whisk it all around, then you throw a bunch of cooked spaghetti in there, then you throw the whole thing into the pan, and you have like this kind of fried pasta with the eggs. It's really delicious.
Well, that sounds fabulous. Other than the fact that we're not talking about that, that was an excellent suggestion.
One of my go-tos for my children when they were young. Yeah, and cheese. I put American cheese, which is bad. I know.
You put cheese on everything. You're a big cheese kind of person.
I like cheese, but I like his idea. I'm going to go try this.
Creme fraiche?
The creme fraiche. I mean, it's very fattening.
It's really good for you.
It's really high. It's like an artery clogging kind of thing. It's kind of like beef lard.
Well,
like
it's actually expensive enough. It comes with an EMT. Did you know that? There's a toll-free number. Let's start in Medfield, I believe. Yes, with Kathleen. We're talking about the scrambled egg. Hi, Kathleen. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing very well. I do it very similar to Chef Ramsay. I put butter in and then crack the egg in, let it cook a little bit. Then I scramble it, throw in a little cayenne pepper, or sometimes I'll do pepper jack cheese.
Excellent.
And then use light cream. I add a little bit of light cream to it and then scramble it all up, and it is just delicious.
I like that.
It sounds
light
delicious.
Cream.
Oh.
It's
light
really
cream.
It's really important not to overcook them. That's a big thing. You don't want to overcook
they got hard.
the eggs.
I mean, they got hard.
Yeah. Some things you
Kathleen.
never quite get right at restaurants, but very few places make eggs really well. You have to get them really, really hot, and they're really fresh, and they're still a little bit wet.
Well, let me tell you, there are very few things I like as much as a breakfast buffet that comes with the room when you're staying in a hotel. But when the eggs have been sitting, what are those things called at a buffet? What is it?
Oh, God.
Where they
the hot table, wherever they have the eggs.
Where they're just sitting there in the
you ever had
damn thing?
The powder eggs? Those are the grossest.
Didn't you say your kids had them when they were in school?
Yeah, I remember going to the parents' dinner. This was years ago, and parents' breakfast, rather, when we dropped my son, Dan, off at college, and we had powdered eggs.
At college?
College, for the parents. And then on the next day in the New York Times, I read a story about the company that was supplying the food service to his school was the worst food service in America.
Wait, you trashed the company that was at your kid's school?
The New York Times did. They trashed it. They said, you think you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars for your kid to go to school where they're going to serve them rotten powdered eggs. It was very disconcerting. Anyway, Kathleen in Medfield, thank you for calling.
We just spoke to her. But
we did?
You were so great, Margery wanted to speak to you
twice. I'm sorry, I was confused. John in Gloucester.
Hello, John. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm very good.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you again.
You as well.
So So I do sort of everyday kind of scrambled eggs. I got the recipe from my grandson, and it's I scramble. I beat the eggs, put in salt, pepper, and thyme. Put it in the pan. I've chopped up, butter first and then in the pan. And I chopped up cheese. They go by cheesy eggs in the family. And either, cheddar cheese, medium, or I really like Kerrygold Dubliner cheese.
Oh, Kerrygold is great. I
yes.
love that too. John, those sound fabulous. Thank you.
I'm getting really hungry.
For sharing your secret. And with the coffee we had a couple of minutes ago. Now, here is live footage of Gordon Ramsay, I guess, coaching me through scrambled egg attempts. Here it is.
Oh, my God. Leave it. Leave it. Leave it. Just leave it. They're going to blow fire in your face, you donkey!
That's really nice. It's really what a mentor he is.
I don't get the appeals of these shows, but
Nor
Gordon
do
from
I.
Boston says he's been cooking Gordon Ramsay's scrambled egg for a couple of years now. It's by far my favorite method to cook scrambled eggs, and not just because we share the same names as, of course, Gordon from Boston.
I would like to add a couple of things.
Okay.
In terms of, why don't you, haven't you asked me, what are your favorite additions?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim.
Other than
what
red
are
pepper
your
flakes.
favorite additions?
Well, you know what's really good? Lox is very good in eggs. Now, you're not a fish person.
I'm not a
so you
fish
don't like
person,
that.
no.
You know what is also great? I'm sure you'll mock me for this one. This harkens back to my ute, as they say. Hebrew National salami, cut into very small chunks. You saute the salami first and then add the eggs.
Well, that's kind of like a ham and cheese omelet.
I'm going to tell you what my favorite is by far. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You don't. I think I may have told you this once. This is the only good thing I got from my father. Well, a corn omelet or corn scrambled eggs. You take kernels of corn, slice it off the cob.
I could get into that.
You put it in there. They start popping in the butter in the thing, and then you add the eggs, and it's a delight. What do you think of that?
I think that sounds pretty good, actually.
Well, thank you
Can
very
you do
much.
frozen corn, or must it be fresh corn?
I'm not. I don't do frozen, Margery. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I do only
Jim doesn't
fresh
do frozen. I'm
from
sorry.
the cob. Joe in Boston. We're talking about the scrambled egg at a time of great discomfort in our country. Hi there, Joe.
Hey, wow, I'm on the air.
I
How's
think
it going?
you are. If that's you, yes, you are. Excellently. Thank you for asking.
I love your passion for eggs, and eggs are such a comfort food. I just want to see if anybody else has a passion for pepperoni omelets. It's a great addition with some mozzarella.
I have never done that. That sounds spectacular.
Joe, Jim's eyes are lit up.
But there's like a grease experience. I mean, pepperoni exudes grease. Is that a good or a bad thing?
Yeah, that is part of the problem. It's really about the ratio. You can't do too much, and it's about the pepperoni you use. Some work better than others.
Well, I'm going to try it this weekend. Joe, thank you for the recommendation.
Here's some other great suggestions. Fred from Middleborough says scrambled eggs with a big dollop of sour cream are creamy, smooth, and delicious.
That actually sounds pretty good,
And then
too.
a cowboy breakfast, says another texter. Baked beans and scrambled eggs with water in the eggs. I think I like milk in the eggs.
Also, they don't mean
better.
baked beans in the eggs. They mean
No.
baked beans as a side kind of experience.
Farmer's cheese, smoother than cottage cheese and less sodium. Garlic chives in there, too.
I could do that, too.
You ever tried that?
No.
Yeah.
Can I also add something that I learned in the last...
Okay, people are criticizing
No,
us.
I can't.
Peter Mystic says, I thought this segment was about scrambled eggs. When you start adding cheese, avocado, onions, etc., that's an omelet, says Peter. What is the difference between an omelet and scrambled eggs?
I don't think you you scramble before. Here's what I think. I'm not sure I'm right. Someone will call or text and say if I'm wrong. I believe the omelet is scrambled beforehand, and you don't continue to scramble it up while it's cooking. You just let it sit there, and then you flip it over.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
A scrambled egg, you're scrambling not only when you're whisking it to go into the thing, but you scramble it when you're cooking it. How do you like that answer?
I think that's an excellent answer.
Can I also share something
What?
that I'm sure people will find of phenomenal use? I have waited my whole life to make the perfect fried egg with the crispy exterior, the perimeter
I don't
kind
know
of
how to
thing.
do that.
I'll tell you how you do it.
Okay.
You put a little bit extra oil in the pan beforehand, heat it up, and then wait. This is the exciting part. Then you drop the egg or the two eggs in. You're excited, aren't you,
I'm
about
excited.
this? I do.
I'm excited.
And then what you do is when the oil is hot and the egg is in there, you tilt the pan to the side.
Oh.
You baste, this is critical, only the whites.
You baste?
Only the whites of the frying egg.
Like with a spoon or a squirter?
Well, I prefer the spoon experience. You tilt it, you gobble it up with the spoon, and you baste not the yellow because you want it to stay runny, but the white part of the egg, and you get a crispy exterior. What do you think of that? Thank you. I really
Has
appreciate
anybody
it.
mentioned mayonnaise in your eggs as you are whisking them? That's basically just adding more egg yolk and some oil, and it keeps the eggs from drying out and making them and does make them silky and creamy.
Okay, speaking of food, which we are doing, we'll get back to eggs in a second.
I'm really hungry.
I made a banana bread with chocolate chips and walnuts. How was it?
It was very good.
Tell the truth.
It was good.
I gave it to the whole staff. Not one of them has said a word to me about it, which means...
It was good. It could have been a little moister.
Oh, thank you
I think you could have cooked it
But here's the
shorter.
You ready for this?
What?
You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
You'll understand the relevance. Guess what I put a quarter of a cup into that mix? Mayonnaise.
Really?
Mayonnaise in banana bread. What do you think of that?
Well, it was good, but you have to undercook breads, I think, in general.
Well, actually,
like
there's a reason for that, which
bread.
shows you're relatively uninformed. When I was driving here to work, I'm always worried about being assaulted, and I always like it hard just in case I've got to toss it at somebody on the way to work.
Yeah. Check out Sir Ian
here's
McKellen's
the problem.
video on how to make...
Here's the problem.
What?
Nicole, our coworker, tried the banana bread I made. She said I ate a whole bite of flour. The rest was good. Mine was not mixed. Nicole, I didn't have time to mix the thing thoroughly. So don't look a gift horse in the... And Jamie said, I liked it. The slice I got was fully mixed and cooked, which is really quite extraordinary. Let's go back to Mark in New Hampshire. We're talking about the scrambled egg, Mark. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
This
might be sacrilegious, but when my kids were young, I make them in a microwave. You take a 2-cup Pyrex cup, melt butter in it a little bit, and then make it coat the whole inside of the glass, put in 3 eggs, whisk it with a fork, microwave it only briefly until you see it start to cook, then re-whisk it, and it makes the most puffy eggs that come out of there. And my kids just loved them because they hated eggs any other way. And to this day, at the ages of 30 and 27, they make microwave puffy eggs.
Well, first of all, I love Pyrex measuring cups. How long totally do you end up microwaving the thing?
It depends on the power of your microwave, obviously, but never more than like 2 minutes, a minute and a half. But the key is to stir them as they start to cook from the edge out. You'll see they're wet in the middle. Just break them up again and whip them. And then at one point, they'll just shoot up and they may even overflow over the top of the cup. And then they deflate when the kids get them, but they're really soft and tender. I add a splash of milk, like a teaspoon. I don't know why. I don't know whether you're supposed to do that or not, but they come out great.
It sounds fabulous. I'm trying that too. Mark, thanks for your suggestion.
Some other suggestions.
What are they?
Cooked rice, a little sprinkle of garlic powder.
Wait, cooked rice?
Cooked rice.
In the egg?
They make it more pasta-y kind of experience.
What else?
Cooked rice, tomato paste. I'm not sure about that.
I don't think I'm doing that.
But this person swears by the tomato paste, the fried onions, and masa. There you go.
Well, speaking of Julia Child, which you were, here's Julia Child flipping an omelet. Well, sort of. Here she is.
When you flip anything, you just have to have the courage of your convictions, particularly if it's sort of a loose mass like this. Well, that didn't go very well. See, when I flipped it, I didn't have the courage to do it the way I should have. But you can always pick it up, and if you're alone in the kitchen, always going to see.
Is there any sound bite from Julia Child that is not perfect, no matter what she's talking about?
She was just perfect. Okay,
what are you doing
the
here?
Third is here.
Well, I heard that the studio in here was cleaner than it's ever been, and I didn't believe it, so I decided to come in and take a look, and it is remarkably clean. I am very impressed.
Not that we have bad feelings about this. We've been in the studio, I think, for 13 years, give or take. We've asked for it to be clean for 13 years.
Yeah.
The day you start, it gets clean.
What can I say, Jim?
Exactly. I think you said it all right there.
Don't worry. It's going to be dirty again soon.
So the culture show, the Curiosity Desk is premiering in exactly 4 minutes.
That's right.
And 45 seconds.
True.
What's happened on day one?
Well, day one, we're going to talk to my friend and yours, Mr. Mo Rocca.
I like Mo
great.
Rocca a lot,
We've got a conversation with Mo Rocca. What an unbelievable and strange human being. We love that.
Yeah.
Great.
And then, all year, really, we're going to be doing America 250 coverage, kind of looking at 250 years of American history in lots of different ways. We kick that off with a look at 2 remarkable Americans, William and Ellen Craft, who escaped slavery in 1850. We're going to talk to Ilion Wu, who won the Pulitzer Pulitzer Prize for her book about them.
Oh, wow.
And then, I don't know if you know, but it's Groundhog Day.
It is Groundhog Day.
What did the groundhog do? I forgot about it.
Saw it, Shadow. 6 more weeks of winter.
6 more weeks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 6 more weeks of winter. But
it's always wrong, right?
I mean, it's wrong or right. It's just random. But we're gonna look at Groundhog Day the only way we know how, and we're gonna have a conversation about existentialism. Of course, the movie Groundhog Day people refer to as existentialist. We ask a philosopher.
And you did a great show on the Culture Show the other day on Groundhog Day.
It was fantastic
fabulous.
conversation.
I have just one more thing before you go, Edgar.
Yeah.
How do you feel about scrambled eggs?
I do not do scrambled eggs.
You don't do scrambled eggs?
What do you do?
I don't do any eggs.
Really?
Yeah, and I think so. I mean, really,
what's wrong with you, Edgar?
Well,
Why not?
it goes back. So listen, I'm not. I don't want to blame my Aunt Debbie, but when I was a kid, we went to Christmas with Santa at the Pottsville Mall in Pennsylvania.
I forgot you're a Pennsylvania kid, of course.
And there were some scrambled eggs as part of the breakfast with Santa kind of thing, and they were so disgusting that they turned me off.
That's a beautiful
They turned me
story.
off scrambled eggs for the rest of my life.
Okay.
I cannot eat them.
Okay,
right,
so let me just say,
sorry.
to wish you luck in the best sense of the word.
Yes.
One, we hope your show is great. We're sure
Thank
it will
you.
be. Two, most importantly, do not touch my stuff. Do you understand this? Do not touch my stuff.
All
You
right.
understand what I'm talking about?
I'm going to do my best to not touch your stuff, but already, even though it's been clean in
sort
here,
of spread
your
out.
stuff is kind of spread out all over the place.
spread
Jack.
out.
Edgar, we're really thrilled.
Yeah.
Good luck. Can't wait.
Thank you.
1
Thank you
o'clock
very much.
today and every day, Edgar B. Herrick III and the Curiosity Desk.
Okay, as I've been telling a lot of people that have been asking about us going for 3 to 2 hours, you can keep up with us 24/7 by way of our podcast. Or check it out at our TikTok page, check out our TikTok page at Boston Public Radio, which is really clever. Tune in tomorrow. We're live at the Boston Public Library. CNN's John King on Zoom. Food policy analyst Corby Kummer. Executive Director Transportation for Massachusetts Reggie Ramos. And we'll check in with Ari Snyder, Maine Public Radio reporter, about ICE's actions up in Maine. We want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff. We're not thanking them today because we're not here with them. We're not thanking them today, are we?
No, we're
We're
not.
not. Okay.
No, but you should announce it. We'll be thanking them tomorrow.
We'll be thanking them tomorrow.
In case you were waiting for a thank you.
We're leaving you off. We're cutting you off the list today. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
And by the way,
But-
Wednesday, the guests that are on Wednesday, we'll thank them.
That's right.
After they leave.
Okay.
On
But
Wednesday.
stay tuned to the Curiosity Desk with Edgar B. Herrick III. It starts right after us here on 89.7 GBH, and Jared and the Culture Show is right after Edgar at 2 o'clock. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Margery Egan.
I'm Jim Browley.
Thanks again for tuning in. Sorry
How you
for
doing with
my-
this so far? Good?
I made a lot of mistakes today, Jim, but hope springs eternal. Things will be better
Does.
tomorrow.
I feel the same way. Did
Bye.
we say who we are? We are.
I
Bye.
already said it.
See you.
Didn't I?
Stay tuned.
Bye.
See ya.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Brown University pre-college programs, where high school students experience college life, nurture their diverse interests, and make friends and memories that last a lifetime. Applications available online at precollege.brown.edu. And the Boston Philharmonic Orchestra. Benjamin Zander conducts Mozart's dramatic 20th Piano Concerto with acclaimed pianist Christian de Zaydenhut and Bruckner's majestic 7th Symphony at Symphony Hall, February 13th at 8. bostonphil.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herrick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, Mo Rocca. His career is bursting with creativity and humor, going all the way back to his first job in TV.
It was geared towards 6 to 11-year-olds, but it was really the kind of writing assignment that would be concocted by an English professor on acid. I mean, it was just completely nuts.
And switching gears entirely, the lives of two extraordinary people in our America 250 series. Ellen and William Craft, who used an ingenious disguise to escape slavery.
They go not on any kind of underground railroad at this point, but they go above ground, in plain sight.
Plus, is the movie Groundhog Day truly a masterclass in existentialism?
we ask a philosopher. The Curiosity Desk is up next on GBH 89.7.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Kristen Wright. Immigration agents in Minnesota have arrested more than 100 refugees despite their legal status. NPR's Jennifer Ludden reports it's part of a larger administration plan to re-examine refugee cases.
When ICE agents arrested one 20-year-old refugee, his mother says she felt the same fear her family had fled in Venezuela. There, masked paramilitary groups kidnap people, she says. She did not want to use her name for fear of retaliation. The Trump administration says it's reviewing refugee cases for potential fraud. But Jane Grotman with the International Institute of Minnesota says they are already intensely vetted.
The FBI has already checked them. They've had biometric screenings.
Many have been detained in Texas, then released with no charges. A class action lawsuit calls arresting refugees unlawful, and a judge has ordered them stopped while the case plays out. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News, Minneapolis.
Aid organizations are raising the alarm over interrupted assistance to a detention camp for the families of ISIS fighters in northeastern Syria. It holds more than 10,000 children. NPR's Jane Arraf has more.
Save the Children warns that food and medicine is running dangerously low at El Hol camp after Syrian government forces took control in January after clashes with Kurdish-led fighters. The group's Syria director, Rasha Mohrez, says 60% of the roughly 20,000 detainees there are children, detained with their mothers while their fathers were killed or imprisoned when ISIS fell 7 years ago.
And they all 100% aid dependent, so there is no other source of income apart from what aid agencies are able to deliver.
Thousands of the detainees are foreigners whose countries will not take them back. Aid groups are calling for a humanitarian corridor to allow safe passage for aid. Jane Arraf, NPR News, Amman.
The mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie is missing. Officials in Arizona held a press conference this morning. Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos says authorities are investigating the disappearance of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie as a crime.
I think I told you she is very limited in her mobility, right? We know she didn't just walk out of there. That we know. There are other things at the scene that indicate there was she did not leave on her own.
The sheriff says things found at her home near Tucson are of grave concern. House Speaker Mike Johnson says the House won't vote on ending the partial government shutdown until tomorrow at the earliest. There's disagreement over the government's immigration enforcement operations. The Senate approved funds for the Department of Homeland Security only through late next week, giving Congress until then to reach consensus on new restrictions on ICE. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. U.S. Coast Guard has released the names of all 7 people who were aboard the Gloucester commercial fishing vessel Lily Jean when it sank last week. The Coast Guard issued a statement saying the investigation will examine the loss of the 72-foot boat and the deaths of all. Those identified include the captain Accuricio, Gus Sanfilippo, and the crew members Paul Beal Sr., Paul Beal Jr., John Rosinidis, and Freeman Short, along with Sean Theron and NOAA Fisheries Observer Jada Smith. Today's announcement comes after the Coast Guard suspended an extensive search operations that failed to locate the survivors on Saturday. The Red Sox marked an unofficial start to spring today with the truck day as the team moves equipment down south for spring training. GBH's Esteban Bustillos has more.
The truck is loaded up with 200 gloves and more than 20,000 baseballs the team will need at its spring training facility in Fort Myers, Florida. Players will soon be heading there themselves with hopes of building on a promising 2025 campaign that ended with the team being knocked out by the Yankees in the AL wildcard. Pitchers and catchers are due to report on February 10th, and the first full team workout is set for the 15th. Esteban Bustillos, GBH News.
It's Beanpot Hockey Night. BC versus Harvard the first game, Northeastern versus BU the second game. Newsflash Nancy says tickets are in very high demand and they're going fast. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations.
Other contributors include Made in Cookware. Made in Cookware is crafted by chefs for use in restaurants and home kitchens around the world. Their cookware can be found at madeincookware.com. This is NPR.
You're listening to the debut broadcast of the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Now, how many stories have you seen or read or heard, even just today? There are some 20,000 news outlets, a billion plus websites, and that's not even counting social media. Still, I've long had this notion that what we see and hear is just a fraction, that the world and us billions in it are far more remarkable, complex, revelatory, and strange than we realize. We want to explore that side of the news and life for an hour each day. I'm glad to have you with us, and I hope you'll stick around for the whole adventure. We begin with the funny, talented, and unfailingly sincere Mo Rocca. You know him as contributor to CBS Sunday Morning from his book and podcast Mobituaries, and certainly from NPR's Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. In a career that straddles news and humor, Mo manages to do both well, without being mean or superficial. We got to talk to him last week about his boundless creativity and, well, curiosity. Mo, thanks for taking the time.
Edgar, thank you for having me. What an honor to be on your premiere episode. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was thinking about it. Normally, obviously, you book a guest oftentimes when they have a new project, a new book, something going on, right? But in this case, we're sort of the new project. And we were like, well, who's somebody who we have admiration for, who we feel affinity toward? We took a swing, and to our surprise and delight, you have agreed to join us.
Well, thank you.
I suspect part of this is the fact that we are maybe about 30 miles from Leominster, Massachusetts. Our signal is strong in Leominster, Massachusetts, and that plays a part in your story.
Yes, absolutely. My father, who left us, a little over 21 years ago. He didn't leave us. He didn't walk out of a room. He died. But he grew up in Leominster, and he would talk about it with such fondness that I could just picture it. I could just sense it. And he grew up there in the 1930s. So I grew up knowing that Johnny Appleseed had been raised in Leominster, that the sewing machine, I think, and don't tell me if any of this is wrong, that the sewing machine was invented in Leominster. And my father also said that the disco ball was invented in Leominster. Now, I have not found any backup for that.
Unbelievable. Mo, I think about the fact that, you've worn so many hats throughout your career. And I wonder, is there a through line, some sort of fabric, some thread that connects everything you do? One thing I think about is it could be, remember this show is called The Curiosity Desk. Maybe one of the things that connects all of your projects is that sense of curiosity. Is that right?
Well, that's right. And also that I like to make people interested in things that they didn't expect to be interested in. I think that's kind of an exciting thing that really gives me a rush when I can turn people onto something that they never expected to be interested in.
It seems to me there's multiple stages in that process, right? So one, you've got to encounter something that presumably interests you. And then you've also kind of got to say to yourself, I have a sense that maybe people don't know this story. And then three, I've got to put this together. I've got to package this and present it to them in a way that will get them interested. How do you take these steps along the way?
Well, sometimes it's inside out. Sometimes it's outside in. So over time, I'm in my late 50s now. I've learned to trust my gut. And so if something, and I can feel it truly in my stomach, if something is really interesting to me, then I know that the audience is smart, and the audience it'll only be contagious. It'll only catch on if I'm genuinely interested in it, because they'll sniff it out if I'm just going through the motions. So there's that. Then there's the outside in, which is I can look at something and say, this isn't creating that feeling in my stomach, and yet my brain tells me that this is important and worth pursuing. So I'm going to make myself interested in it. So I partnered with some terrific filmmakers to do a documentary on the history of voting rights called Electoral Dysfunction, which ran on PBS.
We're going to have a little election here, and I'm going to ask you to choose between two candidates, colored pencils and markers.
I thought the history of actually our voting rights from the beginning could be like watching paint dry.
Markers have won the popular vote. But now it was time to warp these young minds by introducing them to the Electoral College. Table 1's elector.
But it's undeniably important, right. And I want to make this interesting. So I'm going to make myself interested in it, and in the process, I'm going to make the audience interested.
If I think about all of the things you've done and do, occasionally you are writing for something to be read. What you do at CBS Sunday Morning is very thoughtful, considered, kind of packaged features. Maybe that includes a sit-down interview, but that also includes editing and writing. When you do Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, for example, it's a live show in front of an audience, and it's more of an ensemble piece.
This week, a man in New Jersey was able to escape authorities despite wearing an ankle monitor because he blanked.
He removed his ankle. A bear. A panda.
I mean, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me is a lot of fun because you have to really free yourself as a panelist and make jokes off the cuff. Luckily, there's an editor to sort of, it's like an open mic night with somebody to clean up, to excise the bits that don't work. And then something like CBS Sunday Morning or my cooking show where I went around the country learning to cook from grandmothers and grandfathers in their kitchens, that's much more crafted. But even in the course of those, when I'm doing an interview, even if I'm interviewing an academic about, say, the history of the Monroe Doctrine, that person's the expert. So I don't want to step on that person. But the more natural I can be, the more appealing it's going to be to the audience. If it's looser and if it's warmer instead of stilted and cold. I think curiosity plays a role in that because then you're truly listening and you're truly open.
I think it's curiosity, but it's also empathy. I mean, one of the things I see in your work kind of across the board is no matter what happens, it seems to me that you are operating with a sense of real sincerity, even if it's kind of funny or even if it's kind of ridiculous. You're being sincere in trying to get to something.
Yeah, well, thank you, first of all, because I like to think that my work is empathetic, and I think it's quite literally the best way to connect, right, with somebody across from you. Funnily enough, the years I spent on The Daily Show with Jon Stewart during his first tour, right, of duty on the show, back in around the year 2000, I think inoculated me against a kind of stilted reporter kind of going through the motions, playing a role that's not real, because we were parodying that, we were satirizing that all the time. So in my work now, if I ever approach that, I go, wait, I'm being that person I used to make fun of. And I kind of take the turpentine and strip the layers off myself, right? And that I think it has to come from being curious about the person sitting across from you, being truly curious.
We're speaking with journalist, humorist, CBS News correspondent, author of numerous books, Mo Rocca. Mo, you mentioned things that you hear early in your career, and one of the first big projects you were on was as a writer for the show Wishbone. It sounds like it was a very formative time in your life.
It's the toolbox that I've carried from project to project to project, and it was my first job in television. For those who don't know, Wishbone is a series that was a live-action series in the 1990s starring a Jack Russell Terrier who, in his dream life, became the heroes of different classic novels.
Public humiliation. Nothing worse than that. Sort of like being Quasimodo. He's the main character in The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. The story takes
it was actually a very sophisticated plot structure where you had a contemporary plot and you could hear the dog's thoughts, and his adventures in the fictional town of Oakdale would thematically parallel something that happens, say, in Don Quixote or Romeo and Juliet or Treasure Island. So it was geared towards 6 to 11-year-olds, but it was really the kind of writing assignment that would be concocted by an English professor on acid. I mean, it was just completely nuts. But what it forced me to do is to take these books, many of which I had not read, growing up, distill them for a kid through the eyes of a dog. And kids television is really, really a great training ground for any kind of writing, because kids demand a kind of leanness in storytelling. The plot has to constantly move forward or they lose interest. So it forces you to really be lean and really be thoughtful. All of this, my ability to tell a story is rooted in that experience on Wishbone.
Had you you said it was your first job in television. Had you wanted to be in television, and how, was that a huge deal?
It was a huge deal. It was sort of just kind of fell into my lap. And, the plan, there wasn't really a plan. And I like to say that, when people would say, what's your 5-year plan? I would say, 5-year plans are overrated. I mean, they really didn't work out for the Soviet Union, and which was a way of deflecting, because I think I was always a little embarrassed that I didn't have a plan. I knew I wanted to perform, but I knew that I needed to write my own way, that if I didn't do that, then I was just one in a million lining up for auditions. And I loved it. It was fun auditioning for shows, but I knew that it wasn't using the creative muscle that I was meant to use.
I would like to talk a little bit about your star turn as Milton the accountant on The Young and the Restless. A bit of George Plimpton-style participatory journalism. Not only do you cover The Young and the Restless for its 50th anniversary, but you also star in The Young and the Restless. What is the background? How did you make this happen?
Well, you're right to assume that I made it happen, because I do have a Lucy Ricardo inside of me. If you remember, I Love Lucy. She's always scheming to get into showbiz. And so one of the shows at CBS asked me to do a story about The Young and the Restless. And I said, fine, I'm happy to do it. I just have to be on The Young and the Restless. And so they went to them and they said, that's fine, we'll figure it out. And I had been actually in a Spanish language soap opera, because I used to do bits for the Today Show. And the same thing came up when NBC acquired Telemundo. They said, we want you to do a story on the phenomenon of telenovelas. And I said, well, I need to be in one. So I had been cast in Amor Descarado, which means love unmasked. I played customer number 2. But this was a bigger deal, because since English really is my native language, they knew I could handle more than just saying por favor. I think that's all I said in Amor Descarado. And then, gosh, it was probably 10 years later when CBS Sunday Morning asked me to do something for the 50th anniversary of The Young and the Restless. And I said, well, fine, then Milton the accountant needs to come back.
Hello, Milton. It's been a while. How are things in accounting?
Everything is adding up. That was
an accounting joke, yeah, I get it.
And look, it was great fun. Soap operas aren't what they used to be, so it's become sort of even more of a niche. But it remains its own world, and it's kind of remarkable, the amount of material they have to tape day after day.
I think about your more recent work. We have, your podcast Mobituaries. You have this 2024 book, Roctogenarians, Late in Life Debuts, Comebacks, and Triumphs. And then also on the cooking channel with My Grandmother's Ravioli. All of these projects, there seems to be a little bit of focus right now for you in these latter stages of life and even afterlife. Is there a reason that has happened?
I don't want to sound precious or cloying about it, but I think that I know when I created the cooking show, when I came up with the idea, my father had just died. And I think I sort of had that feeling of, okay, wow, my generation's up next. And so I kind of, I guess I simply put, I became more aware of my mortality. And I kind of just wanted to hear from people that were significantly older than me what are the things that matter to them? You know, after a long life, what are the 2 or 3 things that mattered the most? I also, just from kind of a producer point of view, thought, who are going to be better characters? In my experience, older people care less what other people think of them than younger people, and that makes them better characters. But yeah, I think I was drawn to those older people because they were more comfortable in their skin and were more able to tell me and willing to tell me who they are.
You know, with a podcast like Mobituaries, with a lot of your work where you dip into history so often, something that you are often doing is parsing a legacy. Do you, in the middle of your career, do you, as you're making choices about what you're doing and stuff, at any point are you ever thinking about what your legacy is?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I didn't. And I would like my body of work to be one that helped stimulate people to be interested in things they didn't expect to be interested in. But on a personal level, I just want to make sure that I explore my talent as much as I can and use it as much as I can. You know, potential is kind of a loaded term. It can sometimes seem a little scary. And I know my father used to always say, make sure to use your full potential. And that could sometimes seem daunting. It could be inspiring, which is what he meant it to be, but it could also be daunting. But in terms of what the audience receives, yeah, I would feel good about that. I mean, very few people are remembered. You know, I'm under no illusion that, you know, that piece I did on, you know, on the history of the avocado, I'm making that up. Maybe I will do that. Will be remembered.
You're like, note to self, don't forget the avocado pitch later.
But you know, one thing I do want to say that's something that has occurred to me in recent years is one of the reasons I like doing history pieces is I think when people have a little bit of a sense, well, in general, of what they're talking about, their arguments tend to be less nasty, less vituperative. I think the people that are having the nastiest, loudest arguments out there are the ones that don't know what the hell they're talking about. And so for CBS Sunday Morning, when I do history pieces, I shy away from doing pieces that are directly about a current hot issue, because I think there are plenty of other people doing that and doing it really well. But, you know, even say on something like Greenland or Venezuela, where I did a piece on the Monroe Doctrine, if I could just give the audience just a couple of things, just a couple of nuggets, I'd like to think it helps in some small way. I also just think it makes you feel better to know stuff.
Journalist, humorist, CBS News correspondent, author of numerous books, and host of the podcast Mobituaries, Mo Rocca. Thank you for being our inaugural guest on the Curiosity Desk.
It's an honor, Edgar. Thank you very much for having me.
After we talked to Mo last week, we did follow up on those Leominster facts he reeled off. We are the Curiosity Desk, after all. It turns out the sewing machine was not invented in Leominster, nor was the disco ball, but the plastic lawn flamingo was. As for Johnny Appleseed, Mo, of course, got that one right, and you can check out the Curiosity Desk's own video about old John Chapman on our WGBH News YouTube channel. Just ahead, the lives of two extraordinary Americans, Ellen and William Craft, who escaped slavery in 1849. It's part of our look back on 250 years of American history. This is the Curiosity Desk on GBH.
Syria's Jewish population is weighing whether to return after the new government announced that it was returning their property. Some families yearning to reconnect with the land and its history are optimistic.
Planning on making a trip with all my friends soon. Having them see all their roots, like where their grandparents, their parents grew up.
I'm Elsa Chang, returning home to a new Syria on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Bryant University, presenting the 29th Annual Women's Summit. Illuminating Values, Inspiring Action on March 19th, featuring New York Times bestselling author Ellen Hildebrand. More at wsummit.bryant.edu. And Central Square Theater with The Moderate, an inside look at the experience of content moderators by Drama Desk-winning playwright Ken Urban. Begins February 6th. CentralSquareTheater.org.
This is the Curiosity Desk. I'm your host, Edgar B. Herwick III. The 250th anniversary of the United States has the Curiosity Desk looking at the stories of extraordinary Americans. Today, we meet Ellen and William Craft. In 1850, the couple made a daring escape from slavery, with the light-skinned Ellen disguising herself as a young white man. Their story goes from Georgia through Boston to England, and it's impressively told by Cambridge's own Ilion Wu. Her book, Master Slave, Husband, Wife, won the Pulitzer Prize. She came to our studios last week to tell us all about the Crafts. Ilion, welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. It's amazing to have this opportunity to talk about this incredible couple.
Ilion, in the first pages of your book, we meet Ellen Craft in pre-dawn hours on the day of an escape as she's putting together a costume for her disguise. Tell us who this woman is, Ellen Craft and her husband, William.
So Ellen and William Craft were an enslaved couple living in Macon, Georgia. And in 1848, in this moment that you summon at 4 a.m., they are in this cabin behind a mansion owned by Ellen Craft's enslavers, and they are about to embark on an extraordinary journey to freedom. So Ellen is a seamstress. She is also the lady's maid to an enslaver who is actually biologically her half-sister. So we have to stop maybe for a minute there. Ellen Craft was the daughter of her first enslaver. And she was given away as a wedding present to her own biological half-sister.
Wow.
So this is the family she's running from in 1848 with her husband, William.
What do we know about their background, how they met each other, how they came to be a couple?
So we don't know exactly how and when they met. We do know that the connection was really strong. They wanted to be together, but Ellen did not want to get married because she had experienced such trauma in slavery. She had been separated from her own mother when she was 11 years old. She did not want to experience that again with William or any children they might have. But, love, sometimes you can't help it. That for them, it was such a strong connection that they decided they would get married, love first, and then try to find their way out later together.
I want to talk a little bit about William Craft. What was his background? What was his set of skills? What did he bring to the table?
So William Craft was a craftsman. He was a master craftsman, you could call him that. He was trained as a cabinet maker since he was a young boy. We know from the Crafts talking about it, terrible story of having seen his parents sold away from him. He was in Milledgeville, Georgia, and he had several brothers and sisters, parents, all living together, and they were sold one by one. And then, we need to sort of take a breath with that. So this all becomes sort of motivation for him to find freedom one day, to never have to repeat this. He's been training as a cabinet maker for all these years, and that's actually one skill that sort of comes into play. William has this job as a cabinet maker, but he also is able to earn extra money out of hours. So he's working at a hotel, and he's making these things for Ellen. And so he actually builds a cabinet, and he has more mobility than most people, most enslaved people in this era do. So he's able to go out and buy these different pieces of the costume, which then they're able to secretly store away in this chest of drawers that he has made.
I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the immediate lead up to this escape, as we say. When does this plan get hatched, and what is the plan?
So what they say is that this this idea came to them 4 days before their escape. Can you imagine?
4 days.
4 days. So what they do is Ellen Craft has a very fair complexion. She has been mistaken for white. She knows that she can pass for white. So what she's going to do is she's going to disguise herself as a rich white man and a disabled man because, she has no facial hair, right?
Right.
She's going to cover her cheeks. It's going to also help mask her expression. She's going to wear a pair of green glasses that will signal she has strained eyes, right? So she's unwell. She can't talk very well. She can't move very well. She can't sign the necessary papers. Meanwhile, right on hand is her right-hand man, William, who's posing as her slave. So in this disguise, as an invalid, rich, white, male enslaver, and his quote-unquote servant, they go not on any kind of underground railroad at this point, but they go above ground, taking the latest conveyances like trains and steamboats and all these things in plain sight.
It is a remarkable series of events that happens. Let's talk through the journey because it is not a simple one that they take. So step one is they have to leave where they are and get to their first train. And this is a train which they are going to take to Savannah.
Yes.
What happens?
So that's a moment where the Crafts actually have to separate. William has to go and slip aboard into the so-called Negro car. They get to the station. She has to purchase those tickets. They have to get aboard. And actually, even before they've left Macon, there are 3 people who recognize them. It's incredible. I mean, every step of this journey, you're just like, I can't believe that they're able to get out of this. And that's sort of like the part of the thrill of following their story and they're researching their means is seeing how they improvise solutions to every possible step. From Macon, they are taking that steam train to Savannah. And then it's supposed to be actually just 2 steps. They're supposed to go from Savannah to Charleston by steamboat. And then from Charleston, they're supposed to take a steamer again all the way up to Philadelphia. Boom, boom, boom.
But it sounds like that's not what happens.
Oh, no.
So they get on the train. They get recognized by 3 people just getting out of Macon.
Right.
But they're sort of recognized, but they get away with it. The train makes its way to Savannah, and then they're going to take a steamer to Charleston. Does that part does happen?
They get to Charleston, and it turns out that the steamships to Philadelphia, it's wintertime, and they're no longer running. So what are they supposed to do? Well, luckily, they know about this other way. It's the way the mail travels a long way. It has so many different stops. And so now instead of making that one-step journey, they are going through all these major cities, including our nation's capital. They actually, it's crazy. The train station that they need to get to is right next to the United States Capitol. And actually, from the windows of the United States Capitol, you have an eyewitness, not right now, but you have Abraham Lincoln as a congressman actually remembering being able to see out those windows and see slave pens from the windows of the Capitol. So the Crafts are moving past that Capitol, past those slave pens, and they're getting to the train station. They jump on that train. Again, more steps to go. They still have to go to Baltimore. Baltimore is the last major slave port until they get to Philadelphia. And that's not even the end. I mean, there are twists and turns like you wouldn't believe.
What kinds of twists and turns?
Well, I'll tell you one.
Yeah, please.
Which is really kind of, oh my gosh, at a very inopportune moment, let's just say, they're almost there, and William falls asleep.
He falls asleep.
He falls asleep. Every stop along the way, William is checking in with Ellen. And actually, he's doing such a great job checking in with his so-called master that there are people on this train who are pointing him out and pointing her out to Northern travelers saying, see, this is the bond between master and slave, right? This is the love that you see between these 2 people. But so when William doesn't show up, I mean,
you can only imagine what is going through her mind because all along the way, they can't always be traveling together, right? In these steamships or these trains, there are separate cars for the enslaved and for the master, right? And so they don't know at any point if one of them is going to get caught.
Right.
And so she presumably at this point must be in a panic.
Oh, utterly. And the thing that's so heartbreaking about this moment is that they are so close. So I'm sure they thought about it, that this could happen all along the way. But this is actually the train that takes them to Philadelphia.
So what happens? They step off the train in Philadelphia, and then that's it. They're there. They've done it.
Yeah, they arrive, they've crossed that finish line, and they live happily ever after. No, that's not what happens. That's actually one of the most amazing things about them, because that could have been a version of a happily ever after if they hid, if they didn't say their names, if they went to Canada, which was their original plan. But people hear their story, so they fall in with the abolitionists, or rather the abolitionists get word of their story and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. The world needs to know this and needs to know them. And they say, will you tell your story? Will you share it with the world? And that's the point where they could have walked away and they could have said, this is, they are here to pursue their own life, liberty, and happiness.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the story. But they don't. This is just the beginning of a whole nother chapter.
We're speaking with Ilian Wu, author of the Pulitzer Prize-winning History, Master, Slave, Husband, Wife. It's part of our America 250 coverage highlighting the stories of extraordinary Americans. Ilian, how did you first encounter this story?
I guess I encountered them at a curiosity desk while I was reading. I was in graduate school at the time, and I was assigned this narrative, Running 1,000 Miles for Freedom by Ellen and William Craft, because not only do they live the story, not only do they tell the story, but they write their story, and it's published in 1860. So I remember sitting with this story and just feeling like the voice was something unlike I'd ever heard before. The narration of the story it just kind of felt like it was entering my ear, and I could see like all the different things that they were describing, the world that they were evoking.
I can see you're having an almost physical reaction just recalling it.
Yes, it was it's a physical reaction now, and it was a physical response to the story. I mean, there's really some kind of life in the story that felt like it was projecting outwards. And that's when the curiosity
kicked in,
right? Because they're telling us that they're moving from place to place. They're telling us about the disguise, but I'm like, what did it actually take for them to get physically on that train, and what did that look like? They described going through D.C. What was actually there? They mention their enslavers. They do not name them. And I thought, what happened before the camera starts rolling on their story? And that curiosity kind of ate me up. For me, it was about seeing what was available. Like, is there a paper trail? Is there a way to trace some of these people? And not only that, but like, what did this world feel like? What does it feel like for her as a woman to take off that corset and to be inhabiting a man's clothes? What does that hat feel and look like? What are the smells and the sounds and the sights and the feels of the period?
Did you immediately say, okay, this is a project, I'm working on a book? Or did you just start trying to answer those questions, you couldn't shake it, and then at some point you say, I'm researching a biography here?
I wasn't sure that this was something I was going to write, or that I should write. And I was driving in Macon, and it's raining, and I can barely see because the windshield wipers are going, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? I am just going to see if I find something dramatically new and some sort of glimpse of them, then I'll keep going. And otherwise, maybe I just take a pause.
And what did you find?
I found the paper, the physical paper, the legal document by which Ellen Craft's father, who is her first enslaver, gives her to her biological half-sister. And I saw on that paper the word, he says that it is out of the love and goodwill that he has for his daughter, Eliza, that he is giving her the following property. And there below you see Ellen Craft's name. I mean, talk about like a physical experience. I just sat down on the ground with this giant book in my hands, and I was just in awe.
Yeah. Let's go back to the Crafts, because as we said in their narrative, Philadelphia turns out to just be a mere stop along the way. And the next place they come is right here to Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes. Their initial impulse is to go to Canada, because only in Canada are they really truly safe in a land that is free. And it's the abolitionists who are like, you know what? First of all, Canada is super cold.
That's their first line. I'm sure you want to go to Canada. It's very cold there.
That is, yeah.
Instead,
that was
go to Boston, where it's also very cold.
I know we're looking out at like piles of snow here, but Boston is not just a destination because it's warmer than Canada. It's a destination because it's a place that is full of anti-slavery activists, a strong Black community, a wonderful press, and they think that if the Crafts will be safe anywhere, it will be in Boston.
They arrive in Boston, and they're immediately catapulted into the spotlight. In part because there is this very sort of mature, active network of abolitionists. So the Crafts, what are they going through as they arrive in Boston and all of a sudden are celebrities?
I know. Can you imagine this? I mean, this is in January of 1849, and it's just a month before that they are in bondage. So within a month, they move from being in Macon to being at Faneuil Hall, right? They're on the stage in Faneuil Hall, and there are hundreds of people in front of them. And the thing that's got to be so terrifying is that they don't know who's in that crowd. It's not like all of Boston is abolitionists.
Right.
If anything, the abolitionists they're kind of seen as like a small and kooky extremist group. And here is this incredible couple. They're young. They're let's face it, being attractive helps. They're beautiful. Everyone comments on how good looking they are, how well spoken, how charismatic. And they're coming on the stage to tell their story in a way that is really historic. But they've never seen a woman like Ellen Craft who has experienced bondage and lived to tell the story. This is a time when women are not commonly taking the stage. It's not supposed to be appropriate or ladylike. And here you have this beautiful young woman. And then, of course, there's that whole other twist to it, which is she actually made this journey dressed as a man, which for Ellen Craft it's a huge, risky endeavor to take the stage as she does, to tell her story.
As you say, despite the fact that they are on this speaking circuit here, among friends mostly, it seems, in these abolitionist societies, they are still in danger. And their story is being transmitted not just in this area, but back to Georgia and around the country. It becomes known that they are gone. And in 1850, everything changes because the fugitive slave law is passed, and now they are in danger again.
Oh, I mean, they are really in danger even
before
when they're in Philadelphia, even when they first get into Boston. And when this law passes, it's like the slavers get these sort of superpowers. And I love, Ibram X. Kendi has this metaphor of octopus powers. So you picture this like tentacle reaching across over state lines and being able to grab. And that's what happens. The enslavers who've been quiet up until now decide, all right, now it's time to take action. And the Crafts are in serious danger.
That's Ilion Wu, whose biography of Ellen and William Craft describes their escape from slavery. Tomorrow, we learn the result of their pivotal decision, whether to stay in Boston or flee.
They were prepared to die for this. And actually, it's other people who from the beginning were like, you need to get out. You need to get out and keep telling the story.
Next up on the show, when you say you're having an existential crisis, are you sure about that? A philosopher sets us straight on what really is existential. That's just ahead on the Curiosity Desk here on GBH 89.7 and streaming live on YouTube.
A tough job market, young people, and even colleges are asking,
what does it mean to be educated?
I'm Kirk Carapezza. On our podcast, College Uncovered, we hear how liberal arts programs are weaving career preparation directly into the curriculum.
The number one reason why students enroll in higher ed is to get a good or better job.
Hear the whole conversation on College Uncovered, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Johnson & Wales University, offering career-focused education that blends academics with experiential learning. Learn more at jwu.edu. And the Delaney at the Vale, a luxury senior living rental community for adults 62 plus, committed to providing residents a lifestyle shaped by choice and connection, allowing for a personalized retirement experience. DelaneyAtTheVale.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Today is, of course, Groundhog Day, a day that has taken on a totally different meaning over the past 33 years since this Bill Murray classic took to the scene.
What would you do if you were stuck in one place and every day was exactly the same and nothing that you did mattered?
Now that sums it up for me.
What was, for decades, a lighthearted Pennsylvania tradition where a small burrowing mammal predicted the end of winter has become shorthand for existential crises and reliving the same moment over and over and over. So is Groundhog Day the masterclass in existentialism that many say it is? For that, we would need a philosopher, and we just happen to have one right now, philosopher Sean D. Kelly. He's Harvard's Dean of Arts and Humanities, and he is here to set us straight on what existentialism actually is. Professor Kelly, Dean Kelly, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Edgar. This is a really fascinating episode you've got.
So Groundhog Day has been described as everything from an existential comedy to an existential masterpiece. As somebody who knows from existentialism, do you think that's a fair characterization?
Well, I don't know if it's a masterpiece, but I do think it touches on a lot of the basic themes that existentialism brings up for us. Existentialism is a philosophy, a sort of 19th and 20th century philosophy mostly, that tells us something about who we are. It says that human beings are the kind of being for whom existence precedes essence. And what that means is that there's no prior truth about what it is to be you or what it is to be a human being at all until you start living your life. And what we see in Groundhog Day is a guy who's going through an experiment in living his life over and over and over again. And that's actually one of the experiments that existentialists like Friedrich Nietzsche sort of point us towards when thinking about this way of understanding ourselves.
You know, when people like yourself who really know about this philosophy talk about existentialism, how does it differ from the way the rest of us maybe think about it? I mean, I just think about the sheer fact that you could go to a school like Harvard, you could take an entire semester course, probably multiple semesters courses on the notion of existentialism. Besides what you point out, what are the core tenets of the philosophy? What are the sort of grittier details?
Well, one of the sort of popular conceptions of existentialism is that it's all about sort of grittiness. When Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher, made it famous in the mid-20th century, and when it sort of came to be popular among college students in the 60s and 70s, it was associated with kind of grittiness and depression and isolation.
Black turtlenecks and cigarettes.
Exactly. That's right. Galois cigarettes and the whole thing. But in fact, there's a whole bunch of different strands of existentialism. Some of them go under the heading theistic existentialism. So they actually embrace a form of theism. They think there is some kind of God at the center of the universe. And some of them are atheistic. They think, no, the way you have to live your life starts from the resistance to the idea that there's any God at the center of the universe. But what they all embrace is the idea that in some form or another, we're responsible for making ourselves into the beings that we are. Even if there is a God, he didn't determine us as who we are. We have some serious involvement in that. And I think that's what you see in the Bill Murray character. He's coming to learn over the course of these sort of day after day after day that he's got tons of freedom. He can do anything he wants to. And yet some forms of existence seem more rewarding to him than others. And he wants to take responsibility for that by the end.
You know, I think about two terms in particular that I hear used a lot that have the word existential in them. So people use the word existential crisis to describe, I think, everything from, say, like a mid-career change in, you know, what they're doing for their job to the fact that their favorite show just got canceled. They're having an existential crisis. And the other one is existential dread. When we say these things, like what makes existential dread different from just anxiety? Or what makes an existential crisis existential and not just a crisis?
Good. Well, I think I can say briefly, an existential crisis is existential when it seems to cut at your very understanding of what it is to be you and what it is to be the world that you live in. So an existential crisis that someone has in the middle of their career, sort of it typically comes along when you've been operating by the rules of your career and by the understanding that you have of what it is to be successful. And then at a moment, it occurs to you that that's not grounded in anything, and your whole sense that there was some reason or some ground on the basis of which you were doing what you did is torn away from you. And that's different than just anxiety about the speech you're about to give, or anxiety about a project at work or a relationship. It's anxiety about the very question of who it is, what it is to be you. And existential dread is related to that. Camus, a mid-20th century French philosopher, writes an essay called The Myth of Sisyphus, where he suggests that there's really nothing at the ground of what it is to be any of us, or at the ground of the universe itself. And he gives this great example of the absurdity of existence, which is related to existential dread. He says you see it in everyday life, like that moment where you see somebody behind a plate glass window talking on a telephone, and you see their mouth moving as if something significant and meaningful is happening, and yet nothing is coming out. And he says it's the dumb show of their existence. And there's a kind of dread that goes along with the sense that the whole of the universe is a dumb show of existence. And that's more totalizing than any other kind of dread.
Really quickly, before I let you go, if I'm interested in understanding a little bit more of the details and depth of existentialism, what's a good starting point? Is there a book or a movie beside Groundhog Day that's a good thing to check out to get me started?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. There's so many different forms of it that I can give you a few different answers. I'm actually writing a book that has some of these characters at their center. Blaise Pascal, a 17th century French philosopher and scientist, wrote a book of aphorisms called the Pensées, which is really interesting. Søren Kierkegaard, a 19th century Danish philosopher and theologian, wrote a whole series of books that are taken to be the origin of existentialism. Fear and Trembling is one of them. It's a very slim volume. The Brothers Karamazov by Dostoevsky is a massive novel, but it's basically a murder mystery. And I'm going to argue that it's a kind of existentialist. I do in my classes, and I will in my book, that it's a kind of existentialist masterpiece. But figures like Sartre, Camus, and Nietzsche are on the atheistic side of the story, and they're also fascinating to read.
All right, we've been speaking on the subject of existentialism with philosopher and Harvard Dean of Arts and Humanities, Sean D. Kelly. Dean Kelly, thanks for being with us. Happy Groundhog Day. I guess we'll do this again tomorrow, and then the next day, and then the next day.
Happy Groundhog Day, Edgar.
And speaking of our unusual attachments to certain animals, later this week we'll be talking with our GBH colleagues at Nova about the science behind dogs learning our language. Dog owners, this is your chance to brag about how smart your dog really is. Skeptics, we want to hear from you too. Our pet owners in general, all a little bit delusional. Write to the Curiosity Desk. That's curiositydesk@gbh.org. That's curiositydesk@wgbh.org. Join the conversation later this week. Right now, Jared Bowen is with me in the studio from The Culture Show. Jared, it's Groundhog's Day, and it feels like Groundhog's Day because we were kind of talking about Groundhog's Day just a few days ago.
We did. We just talked about the movie on the Culture Show and realizing that if you haven't seen it in a long time, it's way more. There are many more layers than you realize.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm stumbling because there are layers maybe I don't want to admit to in having watched it again.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can check that episode out if you missed it on the Culture Show podcast. And speaking of the Culture Show, what is coming up on the Culture Show today?
So the tea is back in the news, of course, because
when is it not?
Because, people have been a little frozen on the tracks. Trains have been a little frozen on the tracks. So that's a great time for Tea, an MBTA musical, to come back. So we'll have the creators of that musical on the show. And then Peggy Fogelman has been the director of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum for 10 years this year. In some ways, she's the dean of the museum directors. She and Paul Ha over at the MIT List Visual Arts Center are the longest serving museum directors now. So we'll talk to her about being a museum director in this moment, and especially 10 years of it. And then out in Worcester, there's a new version of a Midsummer's Night Dream with
is it
80s style.
Is it Midsummer's Night or Midsummer Night's Dream? I never know. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's Groundhog Day.
Anyway, we're going to neon and leather and all the fantastical elements of the Shakespeare classic.
That sounds excellent.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a really good show that you have lined up. Can't wait to hear it.
It's fun. Well, congratulations on your first show.
Thank you, Jared. I really appreciate it. And congratulations on your, what number show is this for you?
I have no idea.
Many, 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 and they've all been good. Don't forget to tune in. It's just following up right now at 2 o'clock. We will have the Culture Show right here on GBH. As for us, that's it for the Curiosity Desk today. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armony, Olivia Corshio, Hannah Loss, and Nicole Garcia. Our unfailingly steady hand is Patty Daniels. Our engineer today is John the Claw Parker. We will be back in 23 short hours right here on GBH 89.7. And of course, each day, Monday through Friday, we are also going to be streaming live on YouTube. So check that out. That is the GBH News YouTube channel. So until we are back, I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. And you, stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Explo. From culinary arts to veterinary science, Explo's summer program helps middle schoolers to find their spark. Day and overnight options at explo.org/summer. Priority deadline February 13th. Frontline investigates how carpet mills contaminated southern communities with forever chemicals known as PFAs. Watch Contaminated, the carpet industry's toxic legacy, tomorrow at 10 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, if Boston Transit has ever derailed your day, T, an MBTA musical, was made for you. Transforming stalled trains, garbled announcements, and commuter despair into high-energy comedy. With sharp satire, big musical numbers, the musical taps into the dysfunction of a system we all depend upon. It's part civic roast, part affectionate send-up, and a reminder that sometimes the best response to a broken commute is to sing about it. Then, celebrating a decade as director of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, Peggy Fogelman joins us to talk about her tenure running Boston's jewel of a museum. From its singular founder and world-famous heist to its ambitious contemporary exhibitions, performances, and artist residencies. A conversation about leadership, longevity, and shaping one of Boston's defining cultural institutions. And we go back to the 80s by way of Shakespeare. A new production of A Midsummer's Night Dream in Worcester is set in a 1980s nightclub called The Wood and is awash in leather, glitter, and neon. Livy Scanlon, artistic director of the Hanover Theater Repertory, joins me, along with Alan Seifert, the new president and CEO of the Hanover Theater and Conservatory for the Performing Arts. That's all right now on The Culture Show.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Jared Bowen, this is The Culture Show, and this is T, an MBTA musical.
Fire! Smoke! Signal problem.
Police action!
Fire! Smoke! Signal problem.
Police action!
That's from the song Shuttle Bus, and if you ride the T, you already know the chorus. One delay turns into another, the schedule goes off the rails, and the commute becomes a shared endurance test. T, an MBTA musical, takes the daily chaos of MBTA transit, the breakdowns, the bureaucratic poetry of service alerts, the collective sighing, and puts it on track as a two-act musical that's part love letter, part roast with catchy numbers, and part deep-cut rider jokes. And now, just as the T has been beleaguered by bad weather, T, an MBTA musical, is back with performances at the Boston Center for the Arts this Friday through February 15th and at the Rockwell in Somerville February 20th through March 1st, presented by Infinite Rotary Productions. Joining me to talk about it all are Mel Carubia, the composer and lyricist, and Infinite Rotary Productions executive producer, Cassandra West. Welcome to the show, both of you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much for having us.
Yeah, that was a great intro.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
How did you get to the show today?
Oh, I had to drive.
You drove.
Same.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I came from the South Shore, and commuter rail would have taken too long.
Yeah. So this is something you know well. Well, Mel, let me start with you.
Sure.
What was the genesis of this when it first launched 15 years ago?
15 years ago. Wild.
Congratulations.
So thank you. Happy birthday, T. So it started off as a 5-minute sketch for a political social comedy group. I was in at Improv Boston, and I presented it to the group, and they said, we are not musical theater people, and we love this music, but I don't know if I could sing it. And also, it has legs. This needs to not be 5 minutes long. We have grievances that could make this at least an hour. And so Mike Manship, who was a part of that troupe at the time, said, let me write it with you. And that's how the original T, the musical, was born.
And did you have that same confidence that others had for you, that there was definitely enough material here?
I just had a lot to say about the T. and then everybody else had lots more to add, and it just kind of became this big community, like you said, love letter and airing of grievances all at once.
Well, we'll get into some of those, but Cassandra, describe, if you would, what the plot is. This isn't just an amalgamation of horror stories. There's a story here.
Oh, absolutely. I think for at least my experience of the plot is very much a journey of self-discovery and acceptance. So we follow 3 Bostonians who have decided, I'm fed up with the T. It has ruined my life. And we are going to band together, team up, and defeat it. So we're following them on this journey through the Boston Underground transit system to try to defeat said transit system. And I think that really is the crux of the show. It is a beautiful exercise in I'm losing the word and it's on the tip of my tongue.
Catharsis?
Catharsis.
Yeah. It's a bit like the Wizard of Oz, except instead of the yellow brick road, you have the red line, the green line, and the orange line, but not the blue line because no one's going to the airport.
Right. And they're trying to get to the truth of the matter that the wizard may hold.
Exactly.
Well, what is the truth that it starts to surface as you do a deep dive artistically through the prism of musical theater to understand our very complex T system?
Well, a lot of the songs are about the heroes who are journeying on the T and the things that they blame the T for. So, one of them is he's kind of a deadbeat. He doesn't take himself seriously. And he's like, well, the whole reason is because 3 buses went by when I was trying to get to a job interview. But the real crux of it is he keeps blaming the T for a lack of motivation within himself. And so the whole show ties together those kinds of personal messages with grievances that a lot of people have about the MBTA.
But you shift perspective, too, so that we also understand what's coming from the MBTA itself, because there is this us versus them mentality that surfaces.
Yes, at least at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree, definitely. One of the favorite songs that audiences have is People on the T, and I think that's really where the perspective of the MBTA employees comes in is it's not just the system itself.
It's about the ridership.
Yeah, it's everybody, it's everything, and that's part of the journey for these characters is not just what's getting in their way, but how also they're getting in.
And the
their
lady
own
with
way.
5 bags on the seat next to her, and the person
absolutely.
eating hot dogs raw from a pack. Just the weird things you encounter.
We can hear that from your own show. You're born show people, because I happen to have the People on the T right here.
Wonderful.
Let's hear a little bit. Again, this is from T, an MBTA musical. This is the People on the T.
Bums and drunks and creeps and punks all trying to touch your junk.
I think that he's really swell and makes me happy, can't you tell?
Don't care how loudly nature calls, the T is not a bathroom stall.
You might think that I'm the creep, but your bags take up 3 whole seats.
It's a great place for a snack. Want a hot dog from this pack?
Can't hear you, got my headphones on.
Where everyone can hear the song. Don't get what young folks are.
This is so terrific. I do ride the T regularly. I have to say that part of the reason I love riding the T is because I love to listen, and probably the greatest quotes I've heard in my life from regular people, like not Mark Twain or Abraham Lincoln, have come from the T, from the conversations I overhear. That is changing as people have their earbuds in now, but yeah, there's a lot of material there just in the People alone.
It's a great place to people watch.
So what was the observations you did, or did you just pull from life? Did you ride the T endlessly as you were creating this?
Great question. I had a time in my life where the T was my way of getting around, and I had to take the buses as well as the trains, and there's a lot of waiting when you're doing that, and so I'd be observing the people around me. I'd be observing how the T employees are interacting, and I just started jotting down ideas. One of the things that is there's a song called the Bro Song, where the heroes are riding on the B line away from Fenway when it's just after a Red Sox game, and a bunch of dudes and bros. I don't know if you know what a dude is, but you can probably imagine the guy. So. They all pile onto the T. And this was inspired by a personal experience where I was riding on the T, in college, trying to get to, I think, the library to do some research. And these guys going, yeah, brother, come on, kid. Let's do a pull-up contest right here in front of this person. And I was literally part of their personal gym. And so those kinds of things just kept a list, and they all made it into the show.
Why is it that we have such a fascination with the T? And a lot of Bostonians and people in the greater Boston area certainly do, but this is something that people across Massachusetts are well aware of.
I think that there is an undercurrent for me that I observe in the people of Boston and Massachusetts that I was finally able to put a name to, which is that we have a devotion to the things that make us miserable.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So I think for me, that's something that's really enjoyable about the show is the T sucks, and the best thing we can do is sing about it, I think, because we'll also go to bat, I think, for the subway system.
Yeah. if somebody's like, well, you know, the MTA is great, like, how dare you? Oh my gosh, kid.
The MTA could never.
They could never.
No.
That other musical, never.
Absolutely not.
You're talking about MTA, meaning New York's transit system for people who are only focused on Boston. Yeah. And I try to glean. Sometimes I have a sense that they have the same, but it feels very different here, the way we talk about the T. But
no, they have it easy.
Yeah.
They're weak.
Yeah. They don't even have Charlie cards. They just put their credit card in the system now.
Yeah. When is that?
Well, I think we just lost our Charlie cards too, which actually was going to go into my next question.
I have to update the show. Excuse me, I'll be right back.
What do you do over the 15 years where the transit system has changed? And I will say, aside from a couple of hiccups I've had recently, Philip Eng, the new general, we call him new because anybody who's just in the job less than 5 years is new. He has made some strides.
Yeah, he's great.
So does that change your work?
Well, so the villain, quote unquote, is called the general manager of the month because for a long time we just had a rotating cast of general managers. And I love that Phil Eng has added some stability and also a face to the MBTA, like somebody that holds that accountability and answers questions and has transparency. And I think he's come to our show. And
really?
Yes. Yeah. He's a big fan, actually. And he sees the problems. He's like, yeah, I acknowledge that those are there. And there's not this denying of the T having problems. Everybody knows the T needs help, but it's not really the fault of the employees. And that's, I think, another important thing of our show is that we point out that we are doing the best with what we have.
What is it like? And I know he's not the first MBTA leader who's been there, general manager, I should say. What is it like when you know you have somebody from the MBTA there?
Oh, that's an experience, I think, that I've really enjoyed working on this show having, because from the get-go, when I first started as an actor on the show, we were inviting MBTA employees to come see the show, and we were saying, you get a front row seat. And MBTA employees are some of the people who laugh the hardest. And having Phil Eng come and having the MBTA show interest in the show and be able to laugh at themselves and also be able to laugh at their circumstance and, the rest of the people of Boston, I think, is something that's really delightful for everybody. There's a joke in there for everybody. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to laugh at the things that you can't control, I think it makes being in Boston and being in Massachusetts a lot more fun. Mm-hmm. So
couldn't agree about that. If people are just tuning in, we're talking about T, an MBTA musical. It's presented by Infinite Rotary Productions. It's at the BCA Plaza Theater this Friday through February 15th, and the Rockwell in Somerville, February 20th through March 1st. I'm speaking with Mel Carubia, who wrote the music and lyrics, and Cassandra West is the executive producer at Infinite Rotary Productions. How does it feel to be doing this after 15 years and to understand that it has had this life and you get these audiences and there's a great affection for this piece?
It's amazing. When it first, made its little one-act version at Improv Boston, I had no idea that it would be running 15 years later. And there was maybe a naive part of me that thought, well, the T will fix all these things by then. But it's like what Cassie said. There's something in the show provides. We love to complain about the weather, about our sports teams, and about the MBTA. And, for all the iterations of it, it still comes down to the fact that we are people just trying to make our way in the world. And that's the message of the show. And whether or not you choose to blame others for it is the fault within you.
Yeah.
Nice existential moment for it. I want to go back to the music because I want to ask you how you compose the music. Let's hear, we heard this at the top of the segment, but a little bit more of Shuttle Bus, again from T, an MBTA musical.
It doesn't take much to bring the subway down, but that doesn't mean you can't get across town. Oh, it's a sad, sad day for the MBTA if we fail a customer in any way. We can't handle it. We can't handle it. We can't handle it. My mission in life's to get you where you want to be. We know you have a choice and we're glad you chose the T. And though you may...
First of all, it sounds like you had so much fun writing this because It is so catchy. It is so enjoyable. It's big musical theater, razzle dazzle. What was your inspiration?
So that was the incomparable Ray O'Hare as the general manager of the month. And the beginning of it starts with that fire, smoke, signal problem. So this is my musical theater like flex.
Yeah, a little bit of Chicago.
Exactly.
In there. Yeah.
It's the cell block tango. And then the rest of it is like, I want vaudeville, I want circus, I want madcap, because I want that. That's kind of what it feels like when the T announces we're going to Shuttles at rush hour on a Thursday afternoon or whatever. And so there's a lot of tempo changes in it. There's actually a moment where they all break into kazoos and march around the stage. It's just wacky.
How long did it take you to write this?
This whole show? So the original version I wrote in under a year. And then when we remounted it a year later at the Oberon as a 2-act, I wrote 2 more songs. But yeah, about a year's worth of work.
And then what happens when you have the moment like the woman leaping off the Orange Line into the Mystic River, or you have a moment like this week where we're reminded, oh wait, it's still not completely fixed because everything's frozen on the tracks?
We go in, we update some lyrics. Yeah, there's a couple lines, like we have a line, don't want to jump in the Mystic again. There's one, maybe today the escalator goes to hell, in reference to, I think it was the 2021 time where the Back Bay escalator went backwards.
Yep.
So there's some real history in there and a lot of like current tea memories as well.
Well, this is so fun to talk about. Cassandra, is this ever not going to be on stage? Based on everything you said about how we love our misery.
I think if there's ever a point where this show isn't relevant, I will happily retire it.
Yes.
I'll go, hooray, the tea works. So
good job, everyone.
Good job, everyone.
So in other words, with apologies to Phil Bang, it's running forever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, every piece of massive infrastructure, when you're the oldest transit in the country, it's going to have problems.
Yeah. But one last question. I was so excited when I saw that you had Frank Oglesby, who is the voice of the team. He came to your show too.
He's a big fan.
That must have been like a Meryl Streep coming to your show.
Yes,
it honestly was. And then Meryl Streep said, "Hey, do you want to do a live show?" So we actually have 2 live shows with Frank this season. One at the BCA and one at the Rockwell. And he comes to the show and he does live announcements for us. And we have some fun little add-ins, just to make it a whole experience.
Do you disclose those dates ahead of time? Do you want to share?
So it is this coming Saturday, the 7th at 2 p.m.
And the other one's the 21st at 2 p.m. of February, yeah.
Yeah, and Mel is actually playing that performance as well.
I will
so it'll be a little
guest
bit
conducting the tea.
Star-studded
huge
team.
all-star show.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. This has been so much fun. We need this on this cold winter day, this lovely entertainment. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having us.
It's been lovely.
Been fun. Yeah.
Tea, an MBTA musical, is presented by Infinite Rotary Productions. It's on stage at the BCA Plaza Theater this Friday through February 15th, and at the Rockwell in Somerville, February 20th through March 1st, and again the 7th. And the 21st is when you can see or hear Frank Oglesby. Mel Carubia wrote the music and lyrics. Cassandra West is Infinite Rotary Productions executive producer. Thank you again. Coming up, Peggy Fogelman reflects on 10 years as director of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. She's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Rolfe. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, the Boston Symphony Orchestra is celebrating a new Grammy win. It's Truck Day for the Red Sox as equipment rolls out of Fenway on the way to spring training in Florida. And the Trump administration says Minnesota raids target the worst of the worst. But refugees lawfully admitted after fleeing persecution are also being arrested. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Massachusetts Health Connector for Business. Premium value plans can help small business owners find and offer accessible employee health benefits. Learn more at mahealthconnector.org/business. And Brown University Pre-College Programs, where high school students experience college life, nurture their diverse interests, and make friends and memories that last a lifetime. Applications available online at precollege.brown.edu.
And McLean Middleton. For over 100 years, McLean Middleton has been dedicated to serving its clients and its community, offering guidance through the complexities of today's legal system. With locations in Woburn and Boston, McLean.com.
From your neighborhood to your newsfeed,
GBH News is your trusted source for the news that matters to you. Find us wherever you are at GBH News and always at GBH 89.7. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show live on 89.7 and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. The Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum was born out of the vision, ambition, and relentless pursuit of Isabella Stewart Gardner, a woman who believed in the need for a singular artistic oasis in Boston, made even better when housed in a Venetian palazzo. More than a century after her death, her vision continues to widen. It's now under the direction of Peggy Fogelman, who is celebrating a decade leading the museum. During her tenure, Fogelman has expanded contemporary exhibitions, performance, and artist residencies. She's sustained the museum's role in the city's cultural life through a pandemic shutdown and reopening. And key to all of that success is her steadfast focus on inviting all audiences into the Gardner. She joins me now, Peggy Fogelman. Welcome back to The Culture Show. It's great to see you again.
Thanks, Jared. Thanks for having me.
Well, congratulations on this milestone moment. What does it represent to you, 10 years leading the museum?
Lots more gray hairs.
Hardly.
It's a wonderful milestone, but it really, for me, I think about how much the museum has expanded in terms of its audiences, in terms of its community relevance, in terms of its artistic ambitions, and that really stands out. We sought to become a cultural home for Boston and to be not just for the city or in the city, but of the city. And so that's what we've been trying to do. And I think, to a certain extent, our audiences have responded.
And how do you do that for a museum that many people know the story? This is the museum that Isabella Stewart Gardner herself built. Very famously, nothing within the palace part of the museum can be moved without approval from the Attorney General. But you have found a way to make it incredibly relevant and contemporary.
Yeah, thank you. So, one of the things that I'm most proud of is how we built our exhibition program so that in any season, we're always connecting historic art, contemporary art, and the issues of our own time. And we've opened up the way that we approach those exhibitions and both developing them and programming around them to be inclusive of the voices of our own community. So we invite artists and thought leaders and other community organizations to participate in the ways that we interpret art and then how we present it in terms of not only the exhibition, but the program that surrounds it. And so that actually heightens the relevance, but also expands the narrative. So people are contributing their knowledge, their lived experience, very much from their perspectives as community members of Boston. So, that's one thing. I would also say that the community of Boston now is not so different from when Isabella established the museum. So when I first took this job, I looked back at, what was Boston like around 1900 and who was this public that she, bequeathed this museum to. And at the time, Boston was 35% foreign born. It's 25% now. Obviously, the countries of origin were different, but it was very much an immigrant city with great disparities in wealth and education, some of the same challenges we face today. And yet she left this museum, literally, as quoting her will, for the education and enjoyment of the public forever. So she had a very expansive view of who this museum is for, and it's up to us. It's our responsibility to make good on that promise.
One of the criticisms, if I may, we hear of any cultural organization and institution within our confines is that it hasn't always been made to feel people haven't always been made to feel that they are welcome there and invited in. And it's something that is repeated right until the present day. So how do you encapsulate the invitation you were able to extend to artists in the community, that there is this sense of community there?
It's a really good question. And people, there's validity to people feeling like these museums were not always for them. I think that there are a couple things. One is that we had to build trust through really working at deeper and sustained relationships. So not just one-offs. How do we continue these conversations with artists and community over time, not just on a one project basis? And how do we truly take seriously the knowledge that they're generously giving us, right? And how do we incorporate that in very visible ways? How do we help to platform their perspectives and not just our own, and really open up that idea of authority of an institution? I would also say that the variety of things on offer at the Gardner, is quite wide. So, there are these amazing galleries, there are exhibitions, special exhibitions, performing arts, horticulture. Even if you're not interested in art, but you're interested in plants, you'll find your niche at the Gardner, family art making, all kinds of things. So it speaks to a lot of different interests. And then I would say there's something that I cannot myself take credit for, because I think it's really the founder's vision. But we know that there's a mental health crisis among young people, a loneliness crisis, with our elder neighbors. And the Gardner is really a place of solace and inspiration and social connection. And you walk into that courtyard and it's automatically de-stressing. And we know from our own surveying that younger adults actually come to the Gardner seeking inspiration, calm, a relief from the anxiety of our very tumultuous world. And they can find that at the Gardner because it's small, it's immersive. You can see these blooming plants in the dead of winter. It's, a very emotionally driven place. You don't have to know a lot to actually enjoy yourself at the Gardner. And so I think it really speaks to what people need now. And we found that, almost 60%, 58% of our audience is between the ages of 18 and 44.
Well, you've done something a lot of people would like to experience right now, which is, one, to have younger people at your museum and to have attendance climb. We're seeing attendance numbers falling all over the place, not at the levels they were pre-COVID. But that's not been the case at the Gardner?
No, we've actually almost doubled attendance. And so we're nearing 500,000 visitors a year. And when I began, we were around 260,000 visitors a year. So it's been enormous growth. And that's my greatest joy, is walking through the galleries, seeing them full with people, even in our permanent galleries, not just in the special exhibition, and seeing people, sort of connecting with art, connecting with each other in their own ways, Everyone has the freedom at the Gardner to have their own individual interpretations, their own feelings about the art. Gardner herself did not want to dictate what this art should mean to anyone.
I don't want to trample your joy, and I promise we'll talk about lots of good things too, but this is a really tough time for arts and culture in this country. We see with the administration how it's taking aim at arts and culture. Last night, this morning, we woke up to the news that the Kennedy Center is going to be closed for 2 years for quote-unquote renovations, whatever that means. We saw our own Museum of Fine Arts have to announce layoffs last week. The Metropolitan Opera, the same the week before. What is it to be a museum director in this climate?
It's challenging. I mean, there are a lot of factors that are coming together to make it a very difficult time. So there are economic headwinds, both for institutions and, for our visitors. There's still the post-pandemic recovery that a lot of institutions are facing. And then, we're living in a very polarized society. So it's very difficult. And I would just point out that art museum director, so in the performing arts, organizations typically have an artistic director who gets to think about content and program, and then an executive director who takes care of a lot of the operational and financial details. In an art museum, the director does both. So there are a lot of challenges out there.
How hard is it to work through what the administration is doing right now? Because I know that even if you don't receive a lot of government funding, a lot of nonprofits, of which your museum is, GBH certainly is, people are concerned about losing nonprofit status.
Yeah, that's a big concern. And I don't know, what the legal basis would be for doing that. But I think that staying on mission is really important and really vital. Staying true to our mission and true to our values for us, that those values are tied directly to the legacy of our founder. So we are fulfilling the legal parameters, the legal foundations of our institution by doing what we're doing. And I don't know that there can be a stronger argument for our charitable status than that, in terms of donor intent, fulfilling donor intent. But it certainly is a concern out there. It's probably the greatest concern right now for a lot of established art museums.
I'm speaking with Peggy Fogelman, director of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, on the occasion of her 10th anniversary as director of the museum. When you go to the museum, I remember you telling me, I think early on, that you were picking one object to commune with every day just to get to know the collection. Where are you 10 years later in terms of favorite spots in the museum, or what makes you so happy when you're walking in on a daily basis?
Yeah, well, of course, I always stop in the courtyard on my way up to my office. When I a little bit into my tenure, I asked members of the staff individually to take me to their favorite object, because it was a way of getting to know the staff too, as well as learning the collection. And that was such a wonderful thing, because people would point out things that were not the major masterpieces, but some little, not to be disparaging, but some little memento that Isabella had put on a desk somewhere in the galleries that really spoke to people. I do have a favorite painting. It's a composition by a Venetian Renaissance artist of the Madonna and Child, which is kind of unusual for a nice Jewish girl like me. But it is the most perfect composition. And if you bisect the painting vertically and then bisect it horizontally, that intersection is the meeting of the hands of the Madonna and Child right at her heart. And so to me, it really speaks to this just eternal mother-child bond that goes far beyond any religion, and just kind of reflects our most positive and most intuitive human instinct to nurture and care for.
What is your favorite cultural moment to have? Can be looking at an object, going to listen to whatever, outside the museum.
Yeah, so there are I have a lot of favorite cultural places and things to do around Boston. Lately, I'm so happy for Jean Apollon opening his new space in Nubian Square, which I had a chance to visit while it was still under construction. So that's wonderful. I love going to the ballet. I sometimes see you there.
Yes.
Another favorite place is Beauport on the North Shore, which was a house that was built and designed by Henry Sleeper, who was a member of this group called Dabbsville. It was a very kind of wonderful bohemian non-gender conforming, group in Isabella's time. She was kind of an honorary member, and it's and it's decorated in a way that you kind of can see the links between Gardner and Sleeper in terms of how they approached building that kind of experiential environment. And then I like to hike a lot, so I do, and I'm just taking a hike, maybe a little bit of an inflated term, taking walks around Hammond Pond and Jamaica Pond.
I have to ask, well, I don't have to, but I will. The theft, it's something that people always associate with the museum. Has there been a moment in your tenure where you thought the paintings were coming back, that you got really close?
Well, honestly, I can't think of a particular moment when I was like, let me get out the, communication plan for when the paintings will be returned. Yeah. It wasn't that close, but I'm very optimistic, and that actually is my ambition. I want them to come back during my tenure.
Exactly. What makes you optimistic? People ask me this question all the time too. Just because I cover the arts and have for so long, everybody's invested in this. Yeah, so we were talking a little before the show. I have to say, all the challenges that we're facing right now in terms of both decisions on the part of the federal government that are impacting the arts sector, the nature of our, very divided society, what actually gives me a lot of optimism are two things. One is the belief in the power of art and the fact that no one would be attacking, disparaging, or limiting artistic expression if it didn't still have power. And so I have a lot of faith in that power. And then the other is the ability of art to bring people together, to actually create dialogue where before there was only polemic, to bridge different opinions, because actually you want people to have different opinions about a work of art. You don't want the person you're standing next to see it exactly the same way you do. And so being able to build those muscles of dialogue across different opinions, to me, is a really powerful thing in terms of what art museums can do. Speaking of dialogue, what is the dialogue you're having with the new crowd of museum directors in this town? New director at the Harvard Art Museums, new director at the ICA and the MFA.
Yeah, I think it's always good when new energy comes into the art sector in Boston, and we do communicate on a regular basis. And so,
Do you have a club? Do you all gather? Secret breakfasts?
No secret. It's over Zoom. It's not very sexy.
Well, tell me about what your plan is and what your vision is for the museum going forward. You talked about what you did on arrival and your hope for shaping it, which has materialized. We see it in the feel in the museum, the programming, the numbers. What do you start to look to next?
Well, we want the works of art to be returned. That's the first thing. I think it's really about deepening partnerships, seeing where we can take a leadership role in supporting artists, and understanding really how the Gardner can be responsive to the needs of our communities at any given time.
What are you watching or reading right now? We love to ask this question of people like yourself who I know are consuming all the time.
Oh, dear.
Uh-oh. Did I put you on the spot?
Let's see. I just watched Train Dreams, which is a magnificent film.
I haven't seen it. Everybody keeps recommending it.
It's so fantastic. And it has that quiet beauty of a film, that you rarely see anymore. So I'm loving that. I'm reading a book. I'm so terrible at remembering titles. It's either something like Crisis in Leadership or Leadership in Crisis. It's by a Harvard business school professor, and it takes case studies of people like Ernest Shackleton and Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln, and looks at how they developed their leadership, how they met the moment of their time. It's really readable, and there's some really good pointers in there.
Well, it's nice to know where that all comes in. And yeah, Train Dreams on Netflix, right? I think that's where
it is on
everybody
Netflix,
suggesting
yes.
it. Peggy Fogelman, always great to see you. Thank you so much. And again, congratulations.
Thank you so much, Jared.
Peggy Fogelman is the director of the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. To keep on top of all of the Gardner's programming, check out their website. As always, great to see you. Thank you. Coming up, Livy Scanlon and Alan Seifert join me to preview the THT Rep's glitzy new staging of A Midsummer Night's Dream. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
In Cambodia, the Buddhist temple Angkor Wat is a remnant of an ancient empire. Details about what caused the collapse of that empire are now becoming more clear.
If you look beyond the temples, there's this vast engineered landscape, which we've been discovering using various technologies.
Hear more on that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Babson College, where you can advance your career with an MBA or specialized master's at the school ranked number 2 best college in the United States by the Wall Street Journal 2025. Babson.edu/grad programs. And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Andrew Gunn, Fashioning the World, a retrospective of the Singaporean fashion designer. You can learn more at pem.org.
Elevate your brand and support local journalism with a GBH sponsorship. Your custom sponsorship package can include audio, video, digital, and events. Learn more at gbh.org/sponsorship.
GBH Daily is a newsletter that keeps you informed, connected, and ready to go every weekday morning. You can subscribe today and get it in your inbox at gbh.org/daily.
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show, live on 89.7 from GBH and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. By the way, the book Peggy Fogelman was reading was Forged in Crisis by Nancy Kane. Again, that's the book on leadership. Well, at the Hanover Theater and Conservatory has become a cornerstone of Worcester's artistic revival. In 2020, they launched the professional theater company THT Rep to create their own productions and highlight local talent. Their focus is on crafting classics anew, which is why right now audiences enter William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream by way of a 1980s nightclub called The Wood, complete with an 80s pop rock soundtrack. Here, Shakespeare's fantastical world is reimagined as an epic night on the dance floor. It's playing through February 14th. Joining me now are Livy Scanlon, the artistic director of the Hanover Theater Repertory, also appearing in the show as Puck, and Alan Seifert, the new president and CEO of the Hanover Theater and Conservatory for the Performing Arts. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much for having us.
For having us, yeah.
Well, let me start with you to talk about Midsummer Night's Dream and taking us back to the 80s. We're having this moment. We keep talking about this on the Culture Show, that a lot of people are enjoying going back right now and maybe finding us. I know all history is complicated, but they're finding things to love in the 80s.
Yeah, having been born in the 80s, it's a little bit shocking to me to know that people now consider the 1980s a historical period, but I guess that's where we are.
You just have to embrace it.
And in this instance, yeah, there are a lot of parallels between the 1980s and today. And so there's this sense that Shakespeare's Athens, because the original play is set in Athens, we've set it in a sort of city that has a feeling of sort of like 1980s Manhattan. There's a sense that there's a very rigid sort of conservative world outside, and inside the club, inside the wood, magic is possible, transformation is possible, love in all forms is possible. And so that's where our director, Catherine Moncrief, and her associate, Dr. Sarah Lucy, are taking us.
And how is it to create this in this time? And how are you finding audiences find the piece when, as you say, it mirrors this very contemporary moment.
Yeah, it's been utterly joyful. I'd say 90% of the Shakespeare language is Shakespeare. About 8% is adapted iambic pentameter, and about 2% is contemporary ad-libs. So the text is very accessible. The entire the setting of it is joyful and fun, and so it really feels like a celebration and not in any way a heavy or saddening experience. We just opened this weekend. Our opening night was sold out. Our Sunday matinee was close to sold out. We're doing great. Folks are having a blast. We end the show with a dance party on stage, and we hope it's a way for people to cure some midwinter blues.
It certainly sounds like it. Well, Alan, how does this fit into everything that you're hoping to do at the Hanover?
Well, the THT Rep is just a great example of the diversity of both culture and the people who are there and the kind of things that we just want to bring to life. The entire organization includes the Broadway stage. We do great shows, we do music, but the THT Rep was really a chance for us to just focus in on some great stories. And I think because of what Livy's brought to the table, it's just it's such a fun, fresh thing to actually offer up. It's also from us. It's from the community. It's with professional actors, and it's just so much part of the kind of live part of theater.
Well, it's so interesting to talk to you both right after talking to Peggy Fogelman, and I don't know if you're able to hear in the green room what she was talking about building audiences, and she's been very successful, she and her team at the Gardner, just as I know you've been very successful with the performing arts in Worcester, and those words in the introduction were chosen deliberately. You're a cornerstone of the cultural sector. Why is it working?
I'll go first. Because I'm new to this area, I think one of the reasons it's working is because we are relevant, because we're authentic and relevant. And if we're able to offer up content, if we're able to offer audiences stories, experiences that feel real to them, I think that really resonates. We have a variety of different kinds of work because we have a variety of different audiences. So I think it works in part because they can find something that they see on that stage. And I think that being real, being authentic is just crucial. And I think that we've done a really, really good job of telling stories that actually feel real.
I would add that we offer a variety of experiences. So our organization consists of a 2,000-seat beautiful, rehabilitated sort of Broadway-style theater where we host Broadway tours and major dance companies and big spectacular shows. And then we have a conservatory that serves folks of all ages in the performing arts, mostly for joy, but we also have some pre-professional training, particularly in dance. And then we have our smaller venue where the Rep performs, which is a 200-seat intimate black box style. So you can see the Broadway tour of 6, and then you can come over to the smaller theater and see Shakespeare, and then you can take a voice lesson or a dance class. And so this is all within one block of each other in the heart of downtown Worcester, across from a parking garage that's easy to access. And so we have all of these services all related to the performing arts in one location.
I've known you for years. We've spoken a number of times on the air, and you had a company here in Boston, Bridge Repertory Theater.
Yes.
What did you find when you set up camp in Worcester and were rebuilding that way?
Yeah, well, all of the learning I did sort of on the job in creating Bridge Rep, and thank you again for supporting me in those days. All of that served as a great foundation for this next chapter of my career. The biggest thing going into the Hanover was that I sort of already knew what it was like to run a small company in a space like the one that the Rep now performs in, and so I really sort of understood the venue from a user standpoint. And what's been terrific about now being part of a larger organization, and especially under Alan's leadership, because it is such a bigger organization with so much more infrastructure, I have more support, and also I'm learning so much more about all of the business piece of it, not just producing shows, but presenting shows, tours, all of it, working with Stage Union. We worked with Equity Actors, and we still do, but the big house works with IATSE. So I've just learned so much more about the depth and breadth of the performing arts.
Ellen, I'm curious about why you came here. You had big jobs before, but clearly you're a smart guy and you looked at this region and you thought, oh, there's a there and potential. I was also struck to learn that I didn't realize this. I don't know how I had missed this, that at one point, the Hanover Theater, the building itself, was up for debate until the community rallied around and said, let's keep this as a theater. So what have you recognized about the arts and culture sector in Worcester that it drew you here?
I think one of the reasons that I jumped in was, well, there are a couple of them. One is that this was not a startup. This was not just a, flash in the pan moment, but the community itself came together and supported and really helped revitalize downtown. To me, that was really saying something about what the future is. And the other part for me was just the diversity of the community and the content. When we think about what we program for our community, but our community also is pretty big, right? We're also pretty much covering New England. So what was attractive to me was this is an area that has done fantastic work. The Rep was one of those things that was really an amazing gem. And then on top of that, room to then grow. So for me in my career and what I wanted to do, I felt that I could bring in my own experiences and also just continue to have us elevate. One of the things that Livy and I and our team have realized is in this last couple of months in particular, people want a place to feel safe, to enjoy, and to be truly transformed. What's great about the Hanover and our stages is that we tell people you may not like every show. You just may not, but you're going to be transformed. Something's going to happen in that moment. So what's attractive to me is the community supports that. There are audiences that come year after year after year, and that we're telling stories of the highest quality. One of the things that I would say, and this is one of the reasons that I was really drawn here, is that when I look at the kind of landscape of this region, there's fantastic theater, and we're lucky enough to have Livy and that team deliver some of the best. We also have some of the best Broadway shows. We have some of the best music, all of that. But I noticed that there wasn't as much dance. And so when I saw dance, I thought, well, this is an area with my background. If you come to Boston, it's world-class dance here. If you go west from where we are, there's Jacob's Pillow.
Of course.
But in central Massachusetts, what we saw was tons of students, tons of people love to take dance, but then where were we delivering to our audiences the best in dance? That opportunity to me felt like a good reason to then just jump in and be embraced by our brand new dance series. Those are the kind of things that drew me here.
As you're talking about this, I have to say, I'm suddenly drawing a parallel. You were previously at Paisley Park.
Yes.
The famously Prince's home studio,
yes.
All the things. I would use the word incubator. I traveled there a couple of years ago outside of Minneapolis and was so struck about how he used that building to be a tool for his art making.
Right.
And what you're describing to me is also an incubator space within this one complex. Throughout the building, you're building this cultural organism.
Well, that's absolutely right. And having run Paisley Park and seeing what he was trying to build and actually helping bring some of that to life, you're absolutely right. Part of what we have in there is just this great incubator of just great work, and there's so much talent there. So I don't know whether or not we can do a lot of things that we're doing in other cities. I just don't know. But what's special about it is the community and just the kind of wealth of cultural talent that we're able to do such great work.
What Alan is saying about the dance series that he has brought to our 2,000-seat main stage in terms of geography is also a similar sort of motivation for the Rep, in that until we started the Rep, you couldn't see a professional play in central Massachusetts. The last professional theater company was the Foothills, which closed a while ago in around 2008. So just like how Alan has brought dance to the main stage, world-class dance for folks to be able to access in central Massachusetts, the Rep fills a similar void in terms of being able to provide access to classic and iconic plays. So it's fun to be in a part of the state where, we are really needed. It's exciting.
And the other thing I'd add, too, is that one of our big mantras is that we want to be a place that is welcoming. When I moved to Worcester and when I experienced the city, it felt welcoming. And that's a competitive advantage that we have. And so part of what we do is we really want people to feel welcome. We want them to embrace what's happening. And so that permeates everything that we do. You may not like everything, but that's okay. But we want you to come and experience it in a place that feels fulfilling and safe and fun.
Yeah, Worcester is very special. I've lived in Providence, New York City, Cambridge, Boston, and Worcester, and I love it. And we hope people will come visit us.
If people are just tuning in, I'm speaking with Livy Scanlon, Artistic Director of the Hanover Theater Repertory, and Alan Seifert, President and CEO of the Hanover Theater and Conservatory for the Performing Arts. We're talking about, among other things, Midsummer Night's Dream on stage through February 14th at the Brick Box Theater. Livy, I'm curious about the focus on the classics and finding new ways into them to tell audiences stories, whether they're 400 years old or maybe a little bit more contemporary. What's the joy in re-examining these older pieces?
Sure, yeah. I call it the sort of classical plus canon, because we're sort of looking at classics like Shakespeare, modern classics, sort of, like Tennessee Williams or A Raisin in the Sun, and then contemporary classics or a classics-inspired brand new works. And the reason this is appealing to me is because there's a clear through line, but it also allows a lot of room for a lot of voices. Folks have been iterating on classic works, regularly as long as arts have been being made, and so it's nice to be able to both have a framework and a lens and a through line, and also plenty of room to include plenty of new material and new work.
As you get settled into the job and you figure out what your leadership is going to be, have you begun to articulate yet next, Alan, what is on stage or on tap for the Hanover? We've been I've been here a year, almost.
Yeah, just over.
Crazy.
I've been really spending a lot of time. Part of what I want to do is just to listen and to understand. But, for us, it's about opening the aperture of what's on stage and who's behind stage and who that audience is. We're really excited about it. I'd say if there's a through line, we will continue to deliver the best quality content, the best, most exciting experiences that are authentic and relevant. The other big takeaway for us, candidly, is also to just as much as possible, just try to be present, if that makes sense. Just be present for audience members and to just be a fun and exciting place. For the future, we're going to double down. We're going to double down on production. We have an exciting new Broadway series coming. We're going to be doing even more of our own shows, not just what Livy's doing, who has an exciting season coming up. We're going to double down because we have the expertise and the talent and the production capabilities. So we're going to be doing more and more original productions.
That is great to hear. Just like there is a wonderful through line to what we're talking about with Peggy at the Gardner, that where we find subtraction in so many places. It's very encouraging to hear from both of these segments. Thank you. Congratulations on the show. Livy, we didn't even get to talk about you starring in it as well.
She's the best Puck ever.
Hardly. I'm having a lot of fun, though. My character models are Bill and Ted. I'll just leave it at that.
Exactly. Well, that's all we need to know to get us there. Thank you so much, and congratulations on all you're doing.
Thank you.
Livy Scanlon is the Artistic Director of the Hanover Theater Repertory, and Alan Seifert is the President and CEO of the Hanover Theater and Conservatory for the Performing Arts. Their latest production is William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream, on stage through February 14th at the Brick Box Theater. To get tickets, head to their website. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Culture Show. Tune in tomorrow for playwright Joshua Harmon, who turns the pen on himself in his latest show, opening at the Huntington Theater. And the professional pop a cappella group Ball in the Room stops by, perhaps with a song or two. The Culture Show crew is Max Chow Gillette, Kate Dellis, and Chelsea Mers. Our engineer is Bill Piazzatelli. Our intern is Anna Hu. Maddie Geyer produced our YouTube live stream today. If you ever miss us here on the radio, you can catch up with all things arts and culture by way of our podcast. Just go to wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jared Bowen. Have a great day.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
GBH's All Things Considered is coming up this afternoon at 4, with Marketplace at 6:30. But first, get a global view of the news with The World. Up next, here on GBH 89.7.
Support for our programs comes from you. And the Delaney at the Vale, a luxury senior living rental community for adults 62 plus, where residents choose how to spend their time with amenities and programming designed to offer opportunities for connection and learning. DelaneyAtTheVale.com. The Roadshow is rolling into Savannah to see if they can get on track with some fabulous finds at the Georgia State Railroad Museum. Guess the top find on a new episode of Antiques Roadshow tonight at 8 on GBH2.
Support GBH and unlock the best of NPR and PBS, all bundled in one. That means you can enjoy a treasure trove of your favorite public television programs in the PBS app with GBH Passport. On top of that, you get all NPR podcasts, early access, and bonus episodes from some of your favorite shows with NPR Plus. It's a super bundle for super public media fans. Find out more and unlock your member benefits today at gbh.org/superbundle.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at